1 year after my wife passed away, I hired a company to renovate her old office. I had just arrived at the church when the contractor called me and said, "Sir, I need you to come see what we discovered, but don't come alone. Bring your 2 sons with you." Yet why would you say that? My heart almost stopped beating when we got there. The hidden room contained evidence my wife had been keeping for all these years. Then I received a message. It was time for everything to end. Before we begin this story, comment below and let me know. What country are you watching from? I want to know how far this grandfather's warning has reached. Now let me tell you what happened when my sons and I opened that hidden room door. The Sunday morning light filtered through the curtains of my home office, casting soft shadows across the mahogany desk, where Virginia used to leave me notes. At 65, I'd grown accustomed to the silence of the house, too accustomed perhaps. It had been exactly 1 month since the funeral, and still her reading glasses sat on the side table, her coffee mug unwashed in the kitchen sink. I couldn't bring myself to move them, not yet. The shrill ring of my cell phone startled me from my thoughts. The caller ID showed a local number. I vaguely recognized Mike Davis, the contractor I'd hired 3 weeks ago to renovate Virginia's second-floor office. The one she'd worked in for years doing God knows what. Grant applications, she'd always said. Non-profit work. I'd believed her. "Mr. Harrington," Mike's voice was tight, breathless. Not the usual easygoing drawl of a man who'd spent 30 years in construction. "Mike, everything okay? I wasn't expecting the work to be done until, sir, I need you to come down here." "To your wife's office?" There was a pause heavy with something I couldn't name. "And Mr. Harrington, bring your sons. Both of them. Don't come alone." My hand tightened around the phone. "What are you talking about? What's wrong?" "I can't." Mike exhaled slowly, like a man trying to steady himself. "I can't explain this over the phone. You need to see it. But sir, trust me on this. Don't come by yourself." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my mind racing. In 40 years of marriage, Virginia had been the steady one, the one who handled crises with calm efficiency while I fumbled. Now alone in our house in the heart of Asheville, surrounded by her belongings and her absence, I felt utterly unmoored. I scrolled through my contacts, Christopher my eldest. Then Henry. I hadn't seen them together in weeks, not since we'd sorted through Virginia's papers, arguing over what to keep, what to donate. The boys had never been close, not really. Christopher, the careful accountant with his perfect family. Henry, the risk-taker, twice divorced, and still searching for something he couldn't name. My thumb hovered over Christopher's name. "Bring your sons. Both of them. Don't come alone." The words echoed in my mind, carrying a weight I didn't understand. Mike Davis had worked on a dozen homes in Buncombe County. He'd seen it all: rotten beams, asbestos, black mold. What could possibly rattle a man like that? And why would it require both of my sons? By the time Christopher's silver Lexus pulled into my driveway at 11:15, I'd already paced a groove in the living room carpet. My eldest son emerged in a button-down shirt, even on Sunday's phone, pressed to his ear. Christopher had inherited Virginia's cautious nature, the kind of man who read every contract twice. Henry's truck roared up 10 minutes later, music blaring. At 35, he still moved through life like he was perpetually late for something he couldn't name. I met them at the door. "Inside. Both of you." The living room felt smaller with 3 Harrington men in it. Neither son sat when I gestured to the couch. They stood instead, and I noticed how they'd become strangers in the month since the funeral, Christopher and Henry on opposite sides of the room, maintaining that careful distance they'd perfected over the years. "I got a call from Mike Davis," I began. "The contractor working on your mother's office. He told me to bring you both. Said I shouldn't come alone." The silence was heavy. "That's weird," Henry said. "Did he sound scared?" "Yes." My voice cracked. He wouldn't explain why. Christopher's analytical mind engaged. Mom's office. What could a contractor find that requires—" He stopped, looked at me. "Have you tried calling Natalie?" The name hung in the air like smoke. "She's in Boston," Henry offered uncertainly. "Some consulting thing." "That was 5 days ago?" Christopher scrolled through his phone. "She hasn't returned my calls since Thursday." 6 days, I corrected quietly. "I haven't heard from her in 6 days. Natalie, my stepdaughter, Virginia's daughter from her first marriage, the one I'd raised as my own since she was 2. She'd been withdrawn since the funeral, distant in a way that felt different from normal grief. Maybe we should call her before—" Christopher started. "No." I reached for my keys. Mike said to come now. Whatever this is, we're not waiting. Henry grabbed his jacket. Dad's right. Christopher hesitated, then nodded, firing off a quick text to Angela, probably explaining he'd missed Sunday lunch with Olivia and Caleb. We took my Buick 3 men packed in like old family trips when the boys were small and Natalie would sit between them, keeping the peace. The drive to Patton Avenue took 12 minutes through quiet Sunday streets past churches, letting out brunch crowds gathering downtown. Nobody spoke. Christopher stared out the passenger window, his accountant's brain probably running scenarios. Henry drummed his fingers on the back of my seat, restless energy radiating off him like heat. I kept both hands on the wheel, Virginia's voice echoing in my memory. Stay calm, think clearly, don't let fear make decisions for you. But she wasn't here to guide me anymore. When we turned onto Patton Avenue, I saw Mike Davis's work truck parked outside the building, the contractor pacing near the entrance like a man waiting to confess something terrible. Henry leaned forward. Dad, what the hell is going on? I pulled into a parking spot and killed the engine. Through the windshield, Mike had stopped pacing. He was watching us now, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. I don't know, I said, but whatever it is, I didn't want to face it alone. Mike Davis hadn't moved from his spot near the entrance. As my sons and I approached, the contractor's face carried the look of a man who'd stumbled onto something he wished he could unsee. Mr. Harrington. Mike's usual handshake was absent. He just nodded toward the building's entrance. Second floor. I think you need to see this for yourself. The elevator ride felt endless. Henry shifted his weight impatient. Christopher stood perfectly still, that analytical mask firmly in place. I watched the floor numbers light up one after another, wondering what Virginia had kept from me in this building, where she'd spent so many late nights. Grant applications, she'd always said. Fundraising reports, boring paperwork, honey. The office door stood open. Inside the space looked exactly as I remembered: neat desk, filing cabinets, the familiar scent of Virginia's jasmine perfume, still lingering somehow. But the far wall had been transformed. The heavy bookshelf that had stood there for 15 years now sat at an angle pulled away to reveal something impossible. I was checking the wall for moisture damage, Mike explained, his voice tight. Found it was hollow. Then I noticed the bookshelf, it's on a pivot hinge. Old school mechanism, probably custom built decades ago. Henry moved closer. A hidden door, seriously. Mike reached for a leather-bound volume on the third shelf, a collection of Emily Dickinson poems I'd given Virginia on our 10th anniversary. He pulled it forward like a lever. Something clicked deep within the wall. The bookshelf swung inward with a whisper of well-oiled hinges, revealing a doorway and darkness beyond. Mike flipped a switch just inside the threshold. Fluorescent lights buzzed to life. My breath caught in my throat. The room was roughly 8 by 10 feet, windowless and climate-controlled. 15 filing cabinets lined the walls in perfect rows, each drawer labeled in Virginia's elegant handwriting. In the corner sat an old television on a rolling cart, a VHS player connected beneath it. A leather office chair. Virginia's chair, the one that had disappeared from our home study years ago, sat in the center like a command post. Jesus Christ, Henry whispered. Christopher moved, first drawn by that accountant's instinct to organize chaos into something comprehensible. His eyes scanned the labels on the nearest cabinet, dates, names, numbers that probably meant something terrible. I couldn't move. My legs felt welded to the floor just inside the doorway. I stared at the filing cabinets, at my wife's handwriting, so familiar, so beloved, marking each drawer with the same precision she'd used to write birthday cards and grocery lists. One label caught my eye. Drawer, 3-second cabinet from the left. Mayor Brennan, 2004-2019. My hand trembled as I reached out to touch it, fingers tracing the letters Virginia had written. Lawrence Brennan had been mayor of Richmond for 15 years. I'd met him twice at charity functions. Nice man, funny stories, impressive resume. Why did Virginia have a file on him? Dad. Christopher's voice was strange, thin, and strained. He'd opened one of the other cabinets, pulled out a thick folder. Photographs spilled across the top, images of a man I didn't recognize meeting someone in a parking garage. Bank statements, photocopied checks, and beneath it all a ledger in Virginia's handwriting detailing payments, dates, amounts, instructions. Christopher looked up, his face drained of color, and I saw something I'd never seen in my eldest son's eyes before: fear. Dad, Christopher said again, his voice barely above a whisper, these are blackmail files. For 90 minutes, the three of us worked in stunned silence, pulling drawer after drawer, trying to comprehend the architecture of Virginia's secret life. Christopher approached it like an audit, methodical, systematic. He found a leather-bound ledger in the center cabinet, filled with Virginia's meticulous entries. Each page documented a name, a date, an amount. 47 individuals, he said finally. Dating back to 1999, 25 years. Henry was across the room, examining a file labeled Pharmaceutical Exec, 2015-2023. Inside, photographs of a man accepting an envelope in a parking lot. Bank transfers to offshore accounts. Audio cassettes labeled Opioid Kickback Scheme. A payment schedule in Virginia's hand, monthly $8,000. Terms, silence regarding Medicare fraud. This one paid her almost $1 million over 8 years. Henry said, disgust thick in his voice. I stood near the television staring at a security monitor mounted on the wall. 4 camera angles showed this room in real time. Virginia had watched this place around the clock, even from home. Even while sitting beside me on the couch, she'd been monitoring her empire. Christopher flipped through the ledger, faster hands shaking. She categorized them. Corruption 12 files, fraud 9, drug trafficking 6, assault embezzlement witness tampering. He looked up. Dad, she documented everything. Each file was a masterwork of evidence. Photographs from concealed angles, bank records obtained through illegal means, recorded conversations the subjects never knew about. In one folder marked Judge Morrison, 2008-2021, I found a photo of a distinguished man accepting cash in a courthouse bathroom. Beneath it, fixed custody case, $50,000. Evidence recording, bank transfers, attorney willing to testify. The corporate structure is sophisticated, Christopher said, examining business documents. LLCs, offshore accounts in the Caymans and Singapore. Everything routed through consulting firms. On paper, this looks like legitimate investment income. Henry found the security hub behind the last cabinet. Professional-grade surveillance encrypted feeds backup power. This setup cost a fortune. I moved to Virginia's leather chair, where a slim journal lay open. My wife's handwriting filled every page, not evidence, but personal observations. March 3rd, 2019. Brennan's payments late. Pressure increasing. Must protect what matters most. January 5th, 2024. Someone's asking questions. Need to secure final insurance. My hands trembled. Between clinical documentation of crimes, Virginia had written fragments of her thoughts, her fears. But nowhere did she explain why. Why build this? Why risk everything? Total collected over 25 years. Christopher said, holding up a spreadsheet. Approximately $12 million. Current trust balance, $7.3 million. She spent $5 million, Henry said. On what? I stared at the journal. Every entry was dated, cross-referenced, obsessively detailed. The same precision Virginia used for grocery lists and birthday cards. I saw her handwriting on the cabinets, on payment schedules, on surveillance logs. Her favorite chair sat in the center like a command post. Her security cameras watched everything. This wasn't a mistake or a one-time lapse in judgment. This was an empire she'd built with the same care she'd brought to our marriage, our home, our life together. Christopher pulled out another file, this one recent, dated March 2024. Dad, look. She was still actively collecting payments last month, a week before she died. The words hung in the air. A week before she died. I thought about that last week. Virginia making breakfast, asking about my doctor's appointment, laughing at our favorite show. All while running this. All while maintaining files on 47 people's darkest secrets. I looked at my sons, Christopher pale and rigid, Henry's jaw clenched with barely contained anger, and felt everything I'd believed about my life disintegrate. The woman who'd reminded me to take my blood pressure medication had been operating a sophisticated criminal enterprise for a quarter century. I was married to her for 40 years, I whispered. How could I not have known? Henry found it tucked behind the television, a VHS tape in a clear plastic case, a strip of masking tape across the front with 3 words in Virginia's handwriting, for Graham, watch first. Dad. Henry held it up, and something in his voice made both Christopher and me turn. I think you need to see this. My chest tightened. More secrets, more revelations. How much more could there possibly be? Christopher cleared space on the small desk, angling the television so all three of us could see. Henry fed the tape into the VHS player, the machine whirred to life with a mechanical click that seemed too loud in the silence. Static flickered across the screen, then resolved into an image. Virginia. My breath caught. There she was, sitting in this very chair, in this very room, the filing cabinets visible behind her. The date stamp in the corner read, March 6th, 2024, 2 weeks before the accident. 2 weeks before she died. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail, none of the careful grooming she usually maintained. But her gaze was steady, focused directly on the camera, with an intensity that made me feel like she was looking right through the screen at me. Graham. Her voice, God, her voice filled the small room. If you're watching this, I'm gone, and someone close to our family is responsible. Henry swore under his breath. Christopher went rigid. Virginia continued her words, deliberate, carefully chosen. I need you to understand something. Everything in this room, everything I built over 25 years, wasn't about greed. It was about protection. Every dollar I collected went into a trust for Olivia and Caleb for their future, for their education. I never spent a penny on myself. I wanted to speak to argue to ask her why she'd never just told me, but she was already gone. All I had was this recording, this ghost of my wife explaining the inexplicable. The person who will kill me. Virginia's voice cracked slightly, the only sign of fear she allowed herself. It's someone you trust completely. Someone who's been in our home, at our dinner table, in our lives. She leaned closer to the camera. I can't name them on this tape. It's too dangerous. But I've left everything you need in the other recordings. Watch them in order. She paused, seemed to gather herself. Trust Christopher and Henry. They're good men, Graham. You raised them well. But be very, very careful who else you tell about this. Especially, another pause, heavier this time. Especially your daughters-in-law. The screen flickered. Virginia glanced off camera, as if she'd heard something. When she looked back, there was urgency in her expression. I love you. I've always loved you. Everything I did. The tape cut to static. I stared at the blank screen, my wife's final words hanging incomplete in the air. The silence in the room was suffocating. Daughters-in-law, Christopher said quietly. She said daughters-in-law. Henry turned to look at his brother, and I saw something pass between my sons. A current of suspicion neither wanted to acknowledge. 3 black SUVs rolled up my driveway at exactly 3:15, their tinted windows reflecting the afternoon sun. I was still in my living room, Virginia's voice echoing in my head. Someone you trust completely. Christopher saw them first. Dad, we've got company. The lead vehicle's doors opened. A man in his mid-50s emerged, broad shoulders, steady gaze, the bearing of someone who'd spent a career in law enforcement. Behind him, a younger woman with sharp, assessing eyes. I opened the door before they could knock. Mr. Harrington. The man held up credentials. U.S. Marshal Douglas Henderson. This is Special Agent Rachel Bennett, FBI. We need to talk about your wife. My living room felt crowded with 5 people in it. Henderson settled into the armchair with practiced ease. Bennett remained standing, tablet in hand. We've been monitoring Virginia's operation for 6 months, Henderson began. Since October, when one of her targets reported extortion to our Charlotte office. My stomach dropped. We knew she was collecting payments from 47 individuals across 3 states, Bennett said. But when we investigated, we realized she wasn't running simple blackmail. She was documenting a criminal network, corruption, drug trafficking, money laundering. People connected to organized crime going back 40 years. So you were using her, Christopher said. We were building a case. Virginia was cooperating unofficially. She'd agreed to turn over her files once we arranged certain protections. But she died first, Henry said flatly. Yes. March 20th, officially ruled an accident brake failure on Blue Ridge Parkway. We believe it was murder. My hands gripped the armrests. Murder. Henderson leaned forward. Which brings us to why we're here. 4 days ago, your daughter Natalie withdrew $4.7 million from one of Virginia's trust accounts. Legitimate power of attorney, she was a state executor, but the amount and timing are suspicious. Bennett turned her tablet around. Bank records showed Natalie's signature, a wire transfer to the Cayman Islands. Date, April 17th, 2024, 8:47 a.m. Her phone's been off since that afternoon, Bennett continued. Last location, Charlotte Douglas Airport, 2:45 p.m. No credit card activity, no hotel check-ins, no car rentals since. Someone has her, Christopher said, his face pale. Possibly. Henderson's expression was grim. Or she's hiding. Either way, we need your cooperation. Everything Virginia left files recordings names. We need to know who she was investigating and who might have wanted her dead. My mind spun. Natalie missing. Virginia murdered. Federal agents discussing organized crime conspiracies. This morning I'd been a grieving widower. Now I was sitting in the middle of something beyond comprehension. My phone buzzed. Everyone tensed. Bennett's hand moved toward her weapon. I pulled out my phone. Unknown number, one text message. She knew too much. You do too. Stop looking. I held it up, hands trembling. Henderson's jaw tightened. Someone knows you found the room. Henderson didn't waste time. Mr. Harrington, I'm recommending immediate relocation to a federal safe house. You, your sons, and their families. Tonight. Tonight? Christopher's voice cracked. My kids have school tomorrow. Angela, your kids won't have it tomorrow if whoever killed Virginia decides you're next, Bennett said bluntly. Christopher was already on his phone calling home. When he finished, his face was pale. Angela's panicking. She says we can't just uproot Olivia and Caleb pull them from school. She thinks we're overreacting. I'll go, Henry said simply. No wife, no kids, whatever you need. Henderson turned to me. Mr. Harrington. I thought about Virginia's tape. Her exhausted face, the fear she'd tried to hide. She'd known she was going to die, had recorded those messages as warning, and still she'd gone to meet whoever killed her. No, I said quietly. Everyone turned. No safe house. We're not hiding. Dad, Christopher started. Virginia didn't hide. She fought. For 25 years, she fought to protect something, to expose someone. I won't dishonor that by running. Henderson's jaw tightened. Your wife is dead because she didn't run. And if we run now, whoever killed her wins. I met his eyes steadily. They get away with it. Silence filled the room. Compromise, Henderson said finally. No safe house, but 24/7 protection, armed agents outside each residence, panic buttons. No one goes anywhere alone. Full cooperation with our investigation. Done, I said. Christopher nodded reluctantly. I'll make Angela understand. Bennett pulled up her tablet. There's something else. Virginia had an appointment with us March 21st, the day after she died. What kind of appointment? Henry asked. She was turning over evidence on a major target, someone at the center of the network she'd been documenting. But she wouldn't say who over the phone. Too dangerous. She needed to deliver it in person. My throat tightened. She never made it. No. March 20th, 6:45 p.m. her car went off Blue Ridge Parkway near mile marker 364. The accident report said brake failure. Bennett's expression darkened. Our mechanic examined the wreckage. The brake lines were cut, professionally. The room contracted, air suddenly scarce. Murdered, Christopher whispered. On her way to expose someone. Yes, Henderson confirmed. Whoever killed her thinks they got away with it, thinks Virginia's secrets died with her. I thought about the hidden room, the files, the tapes. Virginia's voice watched them in order. But they didn't, I said. Virginia made sure the secret survived. Oops, which is why we need to find who she was planning to expose, Bennett said. Before they realize you have everything she left behind. I looked at the threat text still glowing on my phone. She knew too much. You do too. Virginia was about to expose someone, I said slowly. Someone powerful enough to kill her and make it look like an accident. Someone who's been watching us since we found that room. Henry moved to the window, peered through the blinds at the quiet street. They're probably watching right now. Let them watch, I said, surprised by the steel in my own voice. Virginia spent 25 years gathering evidence. We're going to finish what she started. The second tape sat in my home office like a coiled snake. Federal agents had swept the house, found 3 surveillance devices, all active. Whoever was watching had heard everything since we'd found Virginia's room. Now at 8 p.m. with agents at every entrance and curtains drawn, I slid the tape labeled Tape 2, the mission into the player. Static flickered, then resolved. Virginia. Younger this time, the date stamp read July 14th, 2015. Less gray in her hair, no exhaustion, only grim determination. Graham, if you're watching this, you've seen the first tape. Now, I need to tell you why I built all of this. She folded her hands carefully. This isn't blackmail for profit. It's a protection system. Every person in those files, every dollar collected, every piece of leverage, it's all to keep you safe. I felt Christopher's hand on my shoulder. Years ago, I discovered something about your past, something dangerous. Virginia's eyes bored through the camera. I can't say more on this tape. Too risky. But Graham, you're not who you think you are. The room tilted. There are people who would kill you if they knew you were still alive. Powerful people. So, I built walls around you. Walls made of secrets and fear. Every target in my files is connected to one central crime from 40 years ago. A crime certain people have spent millions covering up. Henry leaned forward. What crime? I won't name it here, Virginia continued. But I've left everything you need in the other tapes. Hidden somewhere, only you would remember Graham. Somewhere we made promises. Christopher met Henry's eyes. Where Dad proposed, each person I targeted played a role in keeping that crime buried. Judges who threw out cases. Prosecutors who declined charges. Cops who destroyed evidence. Businessmen who paid off witnesses. I've kept them controlled for 25 years. As long as they feared exposure, they wouldn't come looking for you. Virginia's voice softened. I know this will hurt. I know you'll feel betrayed. But Graham, everything I did to protect you, even from yourself. Because knowing the truth, knowing who you really are and what happened, would destroy you. I've carried that burden so you wouldn't have to. She reached toward the camera. I love you. If you're watching this, it means I can't protect you anymore. So now you have to protect yourself. Find the other tapes, learn the truth, finish what I started. The screen went dark. Silence. Henderson stood by the door, expression unreadable. Bennett was already on her phone, probably searching my background. Dad! Christopher's voice shook. What does she mean you're not who you think you are? I couldn't answer. 40 years of memories suddenly felt like photographs I was seeing for the first time, wondering if any were real. Mr. Harrington. Henderson said, carefully, do you remember anything unusual about your past? Gaps, relocations, name changes? I shook my head. I'm Graham Harrington, born in Asheville, married Virginia in 1986. That's who I am. But the words felt hollow. A crime from 40 years ago. Henry said, pacing. 1984. You would have been 25. 26, I whispered. Do you remember that year? And I realized I didn't. That entire year was fog-disconnected fragments that wouldn't form a picture. Henderson and Bennett exchanged glances, the kind that meant they knew something I didn't. Mr. Harrington, Bennett said quietly, I think we need to pull your federal records, all of them. I stared at the blank screen where Virginia's face had been. Who was I whispered, before I became Graham Harrington. I barely slept. Christopher and Henry stayed the night, none of us willing to be alone with the questions Virginia's tape had raised. Henderson's call came at 7:30. FBI office, 8:30. Bring your sons. The Asheville FBI resident agency at 151 Patton Avenue was a nondescript building, deliberate anonymity. Henderson met us in the lobby and led us to a secure conference room. No windows, soundproof walls. A manila folder sat in the center of the table like an indictment. Agent Bennett was waiting along with 2 other agents. Everyone stood as we entered. Sit down, Mr. Harrington, Henderson said. I sat. Christopher and Henry flanked me. Henderson opened the folder. Last night I ran your fingerprints through our database. You were flagged immediately. Mr. Harrington, you're in the Witness Security Program database. Have been since 1984. The room contracted. Your real name is Graham Morrison, born August 12, 1959 in Richmond, Virginia. Parents Thomas and Eleanor Morrison. Henderson slid a photograph across the table. A younger me, maybe 25, eyes haunted and traumatized. Beneath it, 2 more photos, a middle-aged couple smiling at a company event. Your parents, Henderson said quietly. I stared. Somewhere in the fog of my memory, I knew these faces. October 12, 1984. Your parents were murdered in their Richmond home. The initial report said home invasion, but it was arson. Someone doused the first floor with accelerant and lit it. Thomas and Eleanor Morrison died of smoke inhalation. You were there visiting for dinner. You hid in the basement when you heard intruders. Images flashed through my mind, smoke, heat, screaming gasoline, but they felt like someone else's memories, a half-forgotten movie. You were the only witness. You testified before a secret grand jury 3 weeks later, identified one perpetrator from photos. But the case was closed in December 1984. Insufficient evidence, they said. No charges filed. That's impossible, Christopher said. If Dad testified, federal prosecutors suspected corruption, Henderson said. The detective Raymond Cook, Richmond PD, buried evidence. The prosecutor who declined charges, Lawrence Brennan, had organized crime connections. The case was deliberately killed to protect the murderers. Bennett spoke. To protect you, justice placed you in witness security. New identity, new location, $50,000 to start over. You became Graham Harrington, moved to Asheville in January 1985. My hands trembled. I don't remember any of this. WITSEC protocols in the 80s included psychological conditioning, Bennett explained gently. You were trained to forget Graham Morrison, to bury those memories for your safety. So Dad's entire life is a lie, Henry demanded. Not a lie, a protection, Henderson said. Graham Harrington is real, your family is real, but everything before 1985 was deliberately erased. I stared at my parents' photograph. Thomas Morrison, Eleanor Morrison. I should feel something, grief rage. Instead, only numbness and the growing horror of emptiness where 25 years should be. The people who killed them, I whispered. Are they still alive? Henderson and Bennett exchanged glances. Some are dead, Henderson said, but not all, and Virginia knew exactly who they were. That's what her files documented. That's why she built her operation to protect you from the people who murdered your parents. Christopher leaned forward. Mayor Brennan, the file Dad saw. Lawrence Brennan was the prosecutor who closed the case. His father, William Brennan, ordered the hit. Bennett confirmed. Lawrence covered it up. Virginia had evidence on both of them and everyone else involved in burying your parents' murder. I closed my eyes, Virginia's voice echoing. You're not who you think you are. She'd known. For 40 years she'd known my parents were murdered, known I was living under a false identity, known the killers walked free, and she'd fought them alone in secret to keep me safe. How is it possible? My voice broke. How can I not remember, Dr. Stephen Clark arrived at 9 sharp, a soft-spoken man in his 50s, FBI psychologist, specializing in witness protection and suppressed memory recovery. Mr. Harrington, Dr. Clark said, settling across from me. Close your eyes. I'll ask questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think. Just respond. I glanced at Henderson, who nodded. I closed my eyes. October 12th, 1984, evening. Where are you? Nothing. Blank darkness. Try harder. What do you see? A flash and sudden visceral. Smoke. The acrid smell burning my throat. Smoke, I whispered. What else? Screaming. A woman's voice desperate. My mother! She's screaming! Where are you? Darkness, wooden stairs above, thunder of footsteps. Under the stairs. Basement. Hiding. Christopher and Henry sat frozen, watching my face contort with terror. What do you hear? Footsteps heavy, a man's voice deep angry, another telling him to hurry. Something splashing. Liquid. My breathing quickened. Gasoline. I smell it. Can you see them? A shadow, large, broad-shouldered, orange flicker of a lighter. One of them, big, pouring from a red gas can, work boots steel-toed. His face. The image dissolved. No, just shadow, but his voice, cold, methodical, calm, like it's just a job. What happens next? Fire. Suddenly fire everywhere. Orange light through floorboards. Heat. My hands clenched. Mom stopped screaming. Dad coughing, then nothing. I'm under the stairs, not breathing, not moving, because if they know I'm here, open your eyes. I did. Christopher was pale. Henry had tears on his face. That's genuine memory, Doctor, Clark said, making notes. Suppressed but intact. Your mind buried it for protection. WITSEC reinforced that through conditioning. Henderson leaned forward. Do you remember the police fragments assembled? 2 officers, hours later, pulled me from the basement. But they seemed wrong. One kept asking if I'd seen faces. Are you sure you didn't see anything? Like he wanted me to say no. Raymond Cook, Bennett said. the detective who buried the case. He rushed my statement. Station repeated everything 3 times, then told me I was confused. Trauma does that, he said. Makes you remember things that didn't happen. Dr. Clark nodded. Classic manipulation? Coaching you to doubt yourself. You testified October 30th of 1984, Henderson said. Federal Courthouse, Richmond. Identified Marcus Webb from photos enforcer for the Brennan organization. The name meant nothing to me. Henderson pulled another document. Marriage license. Graham Harrington and Virginia Pierce, June 14th, 1986, Asheville. 2 years after my parents' murder. 2 years after I became someone else. Your sons, Christopher, born November 1986, Henry March 1989. Henderson paused. And Natalie, born April 1984. I did the math. Impossible. She'd have been 2 when I married Virginia. Natalie is Virginia's daughter from a previous relationship, Bennett said quietly. You adopted her legally in 1986. The room tilted. Virginia had a whole life before me, and she'd known from the beginning exactly who Graham Morrison was. She worked for the FBI. I said, pieces clicking. Henderson nodded. Virginia Pierce, FBI analyst, 1982 to 1986. Richmond field office. Assigned to your WITSEC coordination. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. She knew, I whispered. From the first day we met, she knew everything. My real name, my parents' murder, who I was. Yes, Henderson confirmed. She was supposed to maintain professional distance, Bennett added. But she fell in love with you. Left the bureau in 1986, moved to Asheville, and found me. I finished. Deliberately. It wasn't chance. She tracked me down. The woman I'd married, who'd given me 2 sons, who'd sat beside me for 40 years, she'd known my deepest secret the entire time. She'd watched me live as Graham Harrington, never once telling me about Graham Morrison. Christopher spoke, voice tight. She protected you, Dad. That's what the tape said. By lying to me for 40 years. My voice broke. Henry stood, paced. Maybe she thought forgetting was the protection. Dr. Clark closed his notebook. Mr. Harrington, Virginia, likely believed keeping you ignorant kept you safe. If you didn't remember, you couldn't accidentally reveal yourself. I stared at the marriage license. June 14th, 1986. The happiest day of my life, or so I'd thought. Virginia knew who I really was, I said, and never told me. Bennett opened a second file, thicker, stamped with faded FBI seals and expired classification markings. Virginia Pierce. She began sliding an old personnel photo across the table. A younger Virginia stared back, maybe 30, wearing a Bureau ID badge and a serious expression. FBI analyst, 1982 to 1986. Richmond field office. Intelligence division. I couldn't look away. This was Virginia before me, before our marriage, before she became the woman who made me coffee every morning. In 1984, when you entered WITSEC, Virginia was assigned to coordinate your case file. Bennett continued. Standard protocol analysts handle paperwork, maintain documentation, ensure the witness's new identity is airtight. She knew everything. Your real name, your parents' murder, the corruption, your new identity as Graham Harrington, your Asheville relocation. Everything. Christopher leaned forward. She was supposed to keep that confidential. She was supposed to maintain professional distance, Bennett corrected. Never contact the witness. Never reveal she knew anything. But she pulled out a resignation letter dated March 1986. Virginia left the bureau. 2 months later, she moved to Asheville. The implication landed hard. She came looking for me, I said quietly. Henderson nodded. Your marriage license shows you met May 1986 at a grocery store on Merriman Avenue. Officially chance. But she knew exactly where I'd be. I finished. My address, my routine, everything. The Bureau discovered the relationship in 1991 during a routine audit, Bennett said. By then, you'd been married 5 years with 2 sons. Virginia was no longer FBI. Technically, she hadn't violated active regulations. They filed a note in her personnel record and moved on. Henry spoke, voice tight. So for 40 years, our mother lived with the man she was supposed to protect from distance. That's love, I interrupted, surprising myself. She fell in love with someone she couldn't have and chose him anyway. Bennett's expression softened. There's more. When we investigated Virginia's operation last year, we discovered her FBI access codes, the ones she should have surrendered when she resigned, were never fully deactivated. What does that mean? Christopher asked. For 40 years, Virginia had backdoor access to classified federal databases, personnel records, case files, witness protection archives. She couldn't modify anything, but she could read, track. My stomach dropped. She was watching them, everyone connected to my parents' murder. Exactly, every judge who dismissed cases, every prosecutor who declined charges, every cop who destroyed evidence, every William Brennan associate. Virginia tracked their careers, locations, activities. When they committed new crimes, she documented everything. And blackmailed them, Henry said. Not for profit, for control, Bennett corrected. She built leverage to keep them afraid quiet from ever looking for Graham Morrison. As long as they feared exposure, they wouldn't dig into old cases. Wouldn't ask questions about disappeared witnesses. The room fell silent. I stared at Virginia's personnel photo, young, determined, already carrying secrets she'd keep forever. She gave up her career, I said slowly. Left the FBI, everything she'd worked for, to be with me, to protect me from something I didn't even remember. Yes, Henderson confirmed. I thought about our life together. 40 years of marriage, Sunday mornings, family dinners, quiet porch evenings. She'd known the entire time who I really was, what had been taken from me, who was responsible. She'd carried that weight alone while I lived in blissful ignorance, and she'd done it out of love. Not the simple, easy kind. The complicated, sacrificial kind that meant giving up everything, career, truth, the possibility of an honest relationship to keep me safe. And she sacrificed everything, I whispered, to protect me from something I couldn't even remember. We broke for lunch at noon, but none of us had an appetite. By 1 o'clock, we were back in the conference room, Bennett spreading crime scene photos and case files across the table like a macabre puzzle. William Brennan, she said, placing a photograph in the center. A man in his 60s, distinguished in an expensive suit, the kind of face that belonged on corporate boards. Richmond businessman, real estate developer, legitimate on paper, underneath drug trafficking, money laundering, extortion. He ran the largest criminal organization in Central Virginia from 1970 until his death in 1998. I stared at the man who'd ordered my parents' murder. In 1983, your father's company, Morrison and Associates, acquired 40 acres in Henrico County. Thomas Morrison didn't know the land was being used as a drug distribution hub. Brennan's operation had been there 5 years, hidden behind shell companies. When your father surveyed the property for development, he found evidence. Tire tracks, buried containers, residue. Bennett laid out another photo, Thomas Morrison in his office, stern but honest. The kind of man who'd do the right thing despite the cost. Your father confronted Brennan in September 1984, threatened to go to authorities. Brennan gave him one chance to walk away. Thomas refused. So Brennan killed him, Henry said flatly. Ordered it. 2 enforcers carried out the hit, Marcus Webb and James Harrison. Bennett placed their mugshots side by side. Webb was thick-necked, brutal. Harrison was younger, leaner, with cold eyes suggesting intelligence behind the violence. Webb was arrested in 1995 on unrelated charges, murdered a federal witness in North Carolina. Died in prison, 1997, stabbed in the yard. And Harrison, Christopher asked. Disappeared October 13th, 1984. Day after your grandparents' murder. No trace since. Virginia believed he assumed a new identity, possibly stayed in the region. My hands tightened. He's still out there. Possibly. Bennett pulled out more photos. The cover-up involved multiple people. Detective Raymond Cook, Richmond PD, first responder to your parents' murder. Contaminated the crime scene, rushed your statement, buried evidence. Retired 1995 with full pension, died of a heart attack in 2003. Another photo. Lawrence Brennan, William's son, assistant prosecutor, assigned to your case in 1984. Declined to file charges, cited insufficient evidence despite your testimony. 20 years later, became Richmond mayor, served 3 terms. Died of cancer in 2021. Virginia had a file on him, I said quietly. Mayor Brennan, 2004 to 2019. She had files on all of them, Bennett confirmed. William Brennan's entire organization. Business partners who laundered money. Judges who dismissed cases. Cops who destroyed evidence. Lawyers who intimidated witnesses. and their children the next generation who inherited wealth built on blood. She spread out a chart showing connections, names, dates, crimes, payments. 47 individuals, all linked by thin lines back to one central event, October 12th, 1984. Virginia spent 25 years tracking every person who played a role in covering up your parents' deaths, Bennett said. She built leverage over them, evidence of their own crimes to keep them controlled, afraid to look at old cases, afraid someone might ask questions about Graham Morrison. Henderson spoke. She built a wall around you made of their fear, silence except for fluorescent lights humming. I looked at the web of corruption faces of people who'd profited from my parents' deaths, who'd walked free while I lived under a false name. Rage rose in me, pure and choking, but beneath it was something else. Grief for Virginia, who'd carried this alone for 40 years. Who'd known every name, every crime, every connection, and fought them silently while I slept beside her, oblivious. She'd spent 25 years building a fortress of secrets around me. Not for money, not for power, for love. The complicated, exhausting, thankless kind that meant fighting battles I didn't know existed. If Virginia had all this evidence, I said, voice rough, why didn't she just give it to the FBI? Bennett closed the Brennan file and opened another, this one recent, dated within the last 6 months. Virginia's handwriting covered every page, notes cramped and urgent in a way the older files weren't. Virginia's investigation focus shifted in November 2023, Bennett said. She stopped documenting new targets and started hunting one specific person, James Harrison. She placed 3 photographs on the table, each showing a different middle-aged man. Harrison disappeared completely after October 13th in 1984. No death certificate, no arrest records, no sightings. Virginia believed he'd done what your father did, assumed a new identity, and started over. But unlike you, Harrison wasn't in witness protection. He did it himself, which meant mistakes. Small ones, but mistakes. Christopher leaned forward, studying the photos. Who are these men? Virginia's suspects. 3 men, all the right age, all living within 200 miles of Richmond, all with backgrounds that don't quite add up. Bennett pointed to the first photo. James Cole, 63, contractor in Charlotte. No records before 1986. Second photo. Harrison Kyle, 60, real estate investor in Charleston. Birth certificate filed in South Carolina, 1985, but no hospital records. Third photo. Kyle Porter, 59, insurance broker here in Asheville. Bennett paused, let that sink in. Married to Natalie Harrington in 2018. The room went silent. I stared at the photograph. Kyle Porter. I'd met the man a dozen times, family dinners, holidays, Natalie's wedding, 6 years ago. Pleasant guy, soft-spoken, worked in risk assessment. The kind of son-in-law who remembered birthdays and helped with yard work. No, I said. That's not possible. Virginia thought it was more than possible. Bennett pulled out Virginia's notes pages of meticulous comparison. She spent 6 months investigating all 3 men. James Cole had an alibi. His sister confirmed he was in California in October 1984. Harrison Kyle's DNA didn't match crime scene evidence from 1984. But Kyle Porter, Henry asked, his voice tight. Bennett flipped to the final page of Virginia's notes. Date March 19th, 2024. 1 day before Virginia died. The handwriting was rushed, almost frantic. Confirmed. KP. Photo match 87%. Dental records requested from Virginia DMV. Tell no one until certain. Meeting him tomorrow, 6 p.m. Blue Ridge Parkway, Overlook. We'll get confession on tape. KP's, Christopher said. Kyle Porter. Virginia's scheduled FBI meeting was March 21st. Bennett continued. She was going to present evidence identifying James Harrison, but she never specified who. These notes were in a separate file we found 2 days ago, hidden in her office safe deposit box. Henderson spoke, his voice grim. Virginia confronted Kyle Porter on March 20th. She died that same night. Brake failure on Blue Ridge Parkway. I couldn't breathe. Kyle Porter, Natalie's husband, the man who'd been at our dinner table, who'd been in our home, part of our family for 6 years. Natalie, I whispered. She's been missing for 6 days, $4.7 million. We believe Natalie discovered something, Bennett said carefully. Maybe she found Virginia's notes. Maybe Kyle slipped. But on April 17th, she withdrew that money and disappeared. We think she's either running from Kyle or he has her, Henry finished. I looked at Kyle Porter's photograph. Pleasant smile, kind eyes. A mask. Underneath was the man who'd poured gasoline on my parents' floor, who'd listened to my mother scream, who'd killed Virginia when she got too close to the truth. And now he had Natalie. Kyle killed Virginia. I said the words like broken glass in my throat. And now he has my daughter. Bennett pulled up a digital timeline on her tablet, projecting it onto the conference room screen. Let's talk about what happened to Natalie. A series of dates appeared, each with corresponding bank records, phone logs, and surveillance footage timestamps. April 16th, 5 days ago. Natalie accessed Virginia's trust accounts using power of attorney. Completely legitimate, she was named executor of the estate, but the amount she moved raises red flags. Bennett clicked through bank statements. April 17th, 8:30 a.m. Wire transfer of $4.7 million to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Natalie's signature, her authorization codes. She was running, Christopher said. We think so. Same day, 11 a.m., she purchased a one-way plane ticket to Charlotte. Paid cash at the airport counter. No return date. More footage appeared, grainy security camera images of Natalie in the Asheville airport, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, carrying only a small backpack. Last cell phone ping was 2:45 p.m. Charlotte Douglas International Airport. Then nothing. Phone powered off. No credit card activity since that moment. No hotel check-ins, no car rentals, no ATM withdrawals. She went dark completely. I stared at the image of my daughter. She looked scared, hunched into herself, in a way that made my chest ache. For 3 days, we had nothing, Bennett continued. Then, this morning, a woman named Susan Wallace called our tip line. She's Natalie's college roommate, lives in Boston. Says she received an email from Natalie on April 19th, 2 days ago. Bennett pulled up the email on screen. From Natalie Harrington.tempeprotonmail. Com to Susan.Wallace. 2070 mail. Com, date April 19, 2024, 11:47 p.m. Subject. None Susan tell my family I found what Mom was hiding. It's worse than I thought. I can't come home until I finish this. Tell Dad I'm sorry. And tell him don't trust K. N. The room absorbed that in silence. Proton mail account, Henderson noted. Anonymous encrypted. Created April 18th, used once, never accessed again. Susan didn't report it immediately, Bennett said. She thought Natalie was just dealing with grief needed space. But this morning, she saw news coverage about federal protection for the Harrington family. That's when she called us. Don't trust Kay, Henry said. Kyle. We believe Natalie discovered Kyle's true identity, Bennett said carefully. Maybe she found Virginia's notes about the dental records request. Maybe Kyle said something that didn't add up. But on April 17th, something happened that made her take that money and run. My mind raced. April 17th, 5 days ago. Before we'd found the hidden room, before we'd known about any of this. Natalie had been alone processing whatever she'd discovered about her husband. The email says she found what Virginia was hiding, Christopher said. Does that mean she has Virginia's evidence? Possibly, or she knows where it is. Bennett pulled up another document. Virginia's notes mention final insurance being stored somewhere safe. We haven't found it yet. Natalie knows where, I said with sudden certainty. Virginia told her. That's why Kyle needs her alive. Henderson nodded slowly. If Natalie has evidence that can identify Kyle as James Harrison, she's both incredibly valuable and incredibly dangerous to him. So she's either hiding, Henry said, or Kyle has her. I finished the words heavy as stones. He's had 6 days to find her. 4.7 million leaves a trail even in offshore accounts. He's got resources connections. He could have tracked her. Bennett closed her tablet. We have agents working every angle. Charlotte PD is reviewing all surveillance footage from the airport and surrounding area. We're monitoring the offshore account for any activity. We've issued a BOLO for both Natalie and Kyle Porter. Wait. Christopher sat up straighter. Have you located Kyle? Since we found out who he is? Bennett and Henderson exchanged glances. Kyle Porter hasn't been seen since April 18th, Bennett admitted. His office reported him taking personal leave. His house in Asheville, the one he shared with Natalie, was cleared out. Forensics found signs of hasty departure. My blood ran cold. He's been gone as long as she has. Yes. The implication settled over the room like a shroud. Natalie running, Kyle hunting her. Both of them vanished into whatever game of cat and mouse they'd been playing for 6 days, while I'd been sitting in my house grieving oblivious. "We have to find her," I said, my voice breaking. Before Kyle does. The federal agents were still coordinating search efforts for Natalie when I stood abruptly, Virginia's words from the second tape echoing in my mind. Hidden somewhere, only you would remember. Somewhere, we made promises. "The treehouse," I said. Christopher and Henry looked up. Henderson paused mid-conversation with Bennett. "What?" Christopher asked. "Your mother said she hid something where only I would remember. Somewhere we made promises." I was already moving toward the back door. The treehouse. That's where I proposed to her. The old structure stood at my property's edge, half hidden by an oak tree thick with 40 years of growth. I'd built it myself in 1987, thinking about future grandchildren and summer afternoons. Virginia had loved it, would sit up there with morning coffee reading, while sun filtered through leaves. The wooden ladder creaked under my weight, but held. Christopher followed, then Henry, while federal agents positioned below. The platform was weathered but solid, scattered with dried leaves. I knelt, running my hands along floorboards. The third plank from the left shifted under my touch. I pried it up. Underneath, wrapped in waterproof tarp, was a metal lockbox. My hands shook as I lifted it. No lock, just a simple latch. Inside, a VHS tape labeled Tape 3, The Truth About KP. A USB drive labeled Dental Records, Harrison Porter Match. An envelope with photographs. And a letter 3 pages handwritten, dated March 19th, 2024, one day before Virginia died. I unfolded it, vision blurring. "My darling Graham. If you're reading this, he's killed me. Kyle Porter is James Harrison. I've confirmed it beyond doubt. He married Natalie in 2018 to infiltrate our family, to find what I knew and who else knew. He's been watching us for 6 years. I confronted him this morning, told him I had evidence that FBI would have it, even if something happened to me. He smiled and said, 'Then I guess I'll have to make it look like an accident.' I'm meeting him tonight at Blue Ridge Parkway, overlooked, to negotiate. I have to try protecting Natalie. He doesn't love her, Graham. She's just his access point. I need to make him think he can control this buy time to get her safe. Graham, he doesn't know. You're Graham Morrison. He thinks you're just my husband. Don't tell anyone who you really are until Kyle is caught. The moment he knows, you become the primary target. You're the witness who can still testify, who can identify his voice, his build details from that night. He'll come for you. Trust Christopher and Henry. Trust Marshall Henderson. The evidence in this box proves everything. Dental records match Kyle Porter's x-rays, align with James Harrison's military records from 1983. The photographs show surgical alterations from 1985. The tape is what I'm recording tonight. If I don't survive, it's proof he threatened me. And please, my love, forgive me for keeping your past from you. I wanted you to have peace. I wanted to give you the life stolen from you, a life without fear, without looking over your shoulder, without the weight of unsolved murders. I was wrong to choose for you, but I'd make the same choice again because these 40 years with you have been worth everything. I love you. I've always loved you. I'll love you beyond death. Your Virginia." I couldn't breathe. The letter trembled in my hands as Christopher read over my shoulder, as Henry grabbed my arm. She'd known. That morning of March 20th, Virginia had woken beside me, made breakfast, kissed me goodbye, knowing she was confronting the man who'd murdered my parents, knowing he'd likely kill her too. And she'd gone anyway, to protect Natalie, to protect me, to finish what she'd started 40 years ago. "Dad," Christopher's voice was thick with tears. "She went to that meeting knowing she'd die." I looked at the tape, the USB drive, the photographs showing Kyle Porter's face morphing through surgical procedures until it no longer matched young James Harrison from 1984. Virginia had given her life to hand me the truth. "She sacrificed herself," I whispered, holding the letter against my chest, "to protect me." The weight of her love, complicated, secretive absolute, settled over me like a benediction and a burden. For 40 years, she'd fought a war I didn't know existed. And in the end, she'd walked into death to give me the weapons to finish it. Now, Kyle had Natalie, and I had Virginia's evidence. We gathered in my office at 7:30, the space crowded with federal agents and tension. Henderson brought an evidence technician. Bennett set up recording devices. Christopher and Henry flanked my chair. I held Virginia's letter in one hand, the VHS tape in the other. "Ready?" Bennett asked gently. I nodded. I slid the tape into the player. Static then, the image resolved. Dashboard camera view, hidden in Virginia's purse capturing her car interior, and through the windshield, the Blue Ridge Parkway Overlook parking area. Date stamp, March 20th, 2024, 6:00 p.m., 45 minutes before Virginia died. Audio crackled first, Virginia's breathing steady but tense. A car door, footsteps on gravel. Then Kyle Porter's voice. "Virginia, scenic spot for a meeting. We need to talk, Kyle." Virginia's voice was strong, no fear. "I think we're past talking." The friendliness evaporated. "You've been bleeding my father's associates dry for 25 years. It ends now." Through the windshield, Kyle moved into frame, dark jacket hands in pockets. The pleasant son-in-law was gone. His face was cold, calculating. "Your father murdered Graham's parents," Virginia said. "You helped cover it up." Kyle laughed harsh, ugly. "My father killed a lot of people, Virginia. The Morrisons were nobody special, but you built an empire on their ashes. Respect. I built protection. Call it what it is, extortion, but I'll give you credit. You were smart. Took me years to figure out who you really were, and by then I'd already paid you nearly $1 million to keep my identity secret. Graham never knew," Virginia said, tremor in her voice now, "and he never will." "Oh, I'll make sure of that." Kyle's smile was visible even in grainy footage. "After tonight, this ends. Your files I've already copied most from Natalie's laptop. Your FBI contact I know about Henderson. Your trust accounts, I control them through Natalie. She doesn't know who you are. She's about to find out, right after I deal with you." Kyle pulled out a small toolkit. "Relax, I'm not shooting you. Too obvious. This needs to look natural." He moved out of frame, sounds of metal on metal, something being cut. My hands clenched. "Break lines," Christopher whispered, horrified. Virginia's voice shaking. "You won't get away with this." "No." Kyle reappeared, wiping his hands. "Mess, brake failure on a mountain road." "Accidents happen, Virginia, especially to women your age. Investigators will find nothing suspicious." Kyle's face appeared close to Virginia's window, that terrible smile. "Brake failure. So tragic." He tapped the glass. "Give my regards to the Morrisons." The video showed Virginia's car starting pulling away. Kyle stood watching, utterly calm. His voice faded as she drove. "Goodbye, Virginia." The screen went black. Audio continued Virginia's breathing engine sound, then a scream, metal, grinding, sickening crash, silence. Static filled the screen. No one in the office moved. I stared at the blank television, tears streaming. I'd just watched my wife drive to her death, heard the man who'd murdered my parents gloat about murdering her too. Henry was crying openly. Christopher stood, rigid fists clenched. Bennett turned off recording equipment, face pale. "This is evidence of premeditated murder, first degree. He confessed to your parents' deaths, to infiltrating your family, to sabotaging Virginia's car. He admitted everything," Henderson said grimly. "Morrison murders 25 years of tracking Virginia's operation using Natalie as access. This tape convicts him." I found my voice rough with grief and rage. "He said Natalie's about to find out who he is. Does that mean—" "It means she discovered something after Virginia died," Bennett said. "Maybe she found Virginia's notes. Maybe Kyle slipped. But April 17th, she realized who she'd married and ran. With $4.7 million in evidence," Christopher added. "Kyle's been hunting her for 6 days," Henry said. Henderson's jaw tightened. "And now, we're hunting him. We have his voice on tape confessing to murder. We have dental records proving Kyle Porter is James Harrison. We have everything we need to issue a federal warrant." Bennett met my eyes. "This tape is exactly what Virginia died to give us. Now we use it to finish what she started." By 6 a.m. Tuesday, the operation had shifted to FBI Charlotte field office, bigger facility, more resources, closer to Kyle's last known location. I hadn't slept, neither had Christopher or Henry. We sat in the observation room while the task force assembled. 20 FBI agents, a dozen U.S. Marshals, 4 ATF specialists, local law enforcement from 3 states. Bennett stood at the front beside a screen showing Kyle Porter's face, driver's license photo, beside digitally aged James Harrison mugshot. "Kyle Harrison Brennan," Bennett began. "Age 59. Born James Harrison Brennan. April 1965, Richmond, Virginia." Son of William Brennan, deceased organized crime figure. Legal name. Changed January 1985, 4 months after Morrison murders. He was 20. She clicked through slides. Education UNC Business Degree 1987, Duke MBA 1990. Career Insurance Risk Assessment. Currently employed by Consolidated Risk Management. Perfect cover. His job is researching people's vulnerabilities. I watched agents take notes, study photos. Kyle's face from multiple angles, professional headshots, surveillance footage, DMV records. Married Natalie Harrington, June 2018. No prior marriages under Kyle Porter identity. No criminal record. Exemplary credit. Model citizen. Bennett's tone dripped irony. His last confirmed sighting April 18th, his Asheville office. Told colleagues he was taking personal leave for family emergency. More slides. Residence 847 Maple Ridge Drive, Asheville. Search warrant executed yesterday. House cleared out. Forensics found evidence of hasty departure, wiped hard drives, burned documents, clothing removed. Financial activity, an agent asked. Bank accounts emptied April 16th and 17. Approximately $200,000 withdrawn cash and wire transfers. Credit cards inactive since April 17th. Operating off-grid. Henderson stepped forward. Neighbor Mrs. Patterson reported seeing Kyle loading a white cargo van, evening of April 17th, around 10 p.m. Enterprise Rental paid cash, returned April 18th in Charlotte. No vehicle registered to Kyle Porter spotted since. Bennett showed grainy footage. Security camera caught him loading boxes. Timestamp April 17th, 9:47 p.m. Then he's been running 6 days, an agent noted. Correction, Henderson said. He's been hunting. Natalie withdrew $4.7 million April 17th morning. Kyle cleared his house that night. He's tracking her. The room went silent. Kyle Porter has no known associates under current identity, Bennett continued. But James Harrison Brennan had connections. Brennan Organization and remnants, criminal contacts from the 80s and 90s. We're investigating everyone from Virginia Harrington's files. She displayed a map of the southeast red pins marking locations. Properties connected to former Brennan associates, coordinating with field offices in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. All points bulletin issued this morning, Henderson added. The federal warrant for first-degree murder, kidnapping, extortion, racketeering, armed and extremely dangerous. I stared at Kyle's face on screen. The man who'd sat at my table smiled, made small talk, pretended to be family. Assessment, Bennett said. Kyle's been planning this for years. He married into the Harrington family in 2018 specifically to monitor Virginia's operation. He's had 6 years to prepare escape routes, establish false identities, set up resources. He's intelligent, patient, and methodical. She paused. He's also desperate. Virginia exposed him. Natalie discovered his identity and ran with evidence and money. His entire constructed life collapsed in 48 hours. Desperate men make mistakes. Or they get violent, another agent said. Henderson's jaw tightened. Which is why we find him fast. He's had years to prepare, but we have something he doesn't. Virginia's complete documentation of the Brennan network. Every safe house, every contact, every resource they ever used. We're not just hunting Kyle. We're dismantling his entire support system. I leaned forward, watching the coordinated machine of federal law enforcement mobilize. They were coming for Kyle Porter. And they wouldn't stop until they found him and Natalie. At 10 a.m., Christopher sat in FBI's financial investigation room, surrounded by analysts and screens displaying bank records. This was his element. Numbers, patterns, anomalies. Let's examine Kyle's infiltration strategy, said Agent Torres, the Bureau's financial crimes specialist. She pulled up a timeline. What changed after Kyle married Natalie in 2018? Christopher studied the data. 12 new individuals entered Virginia's target list between 2018 and 2023. But Virginia didn't initiate contact. They were already paying someone else. Kyle, Torres said. He used Natalie's innocent conversations to identify Virginia's targets, then approached them as insurance broker offering protection services. Christopher highlighted payments. These 12 paid Kyle $800,000 over 5 years. But Kyle recorded Virginia's blackmail demands, audio emails, everything. Counter leverage. Double extortion. Torres said. Worse. Christopher opened offshore accounts. Kyle has 8.9 million across Cayman Islands, Singapore, Swiss accounts. Source blackmailing Virginia's victims since 2016. Henderson appeared in the doorway. Recent activity. April 16th, day before Natalie disappeared. Kyle moved 2.3 million to cryptocurrency Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero. Untraceable. Trail goes cold. He was preparing to run, Bennett said, or hunt. Christopher zoomed in on April 17th. Kyle moves money 6 a.m. Natalie withdraws 4.7 million 8:30 a.m. She discovered something that morning, took Virginia's money and ran. Kyle realized by mid-morning, started clearing out. So, both running with millions? Henry asked. Not exactly. Natalie's money hasn't moved, still sitting in Cayman account. She withdrew it for leverage, not spending. But Kyle's crypto. He's converting back to cash in small amounts, funding his manhunt. Christopher scanned the data, frustrated. Then something caught his eye. A recurring charge so small it almost vanished. $500 automatic withdrawal, same date monthly for 29 years, he said aloud. Everyone turned. Monthly payment, $500. Storage facility in Greenville, South Carolina. Account established March 1995. Never missed. Auto pay from checking account Kyle opened 1995. Bennett leaned over. Storage unit for 30 years. Whatever he's keeping, he's protected it longer than his marriage to Natalie. Christopher pulled up the address. Secure Store, 2847 Wade Hampton Boulevard, Greenville. About 60 miles from Asheville, roughly an hour south on I-26. Henderson was already on his phone. Get tactical ready. Torres coordinate with Greenville office. I entered, having heard commotion. What is it? Christopher met my eyes. Whatever Kyle's been hiding 30 years is insurance escape plan evidence he couldn't destroy. It's in that storage unit. Bennett nodded. Could be James Harrison's original documents. Fake IDs, contacts from Brennan organization. Anything that proves who he really is. Or leverage, Henderson added. If Virginia had blackmail files, Kyle might have his own insurance evidence against people who could expose him. Either way, Christopher said, pulling up satellite imagery of the storage facility. He's kept it protected since 1995. That's 4 years before Virginia even started her operation. Whatever's there predates everything. Torres began coordinating. Greenville's about 100 miles from Charlotte. Tactical can be on site in 90 minutes with lights and sirens. We'll need search warrant. Already drafting it, another agent called out. I stared at the screen showing the storage facility. A nondescript building in an industrial area, rows of identical orange doors. Behind one of those doors was Kyle's past, the evidence he'd kept for 3 decades, the secrets of James Harrison Brennan. Whatever's in there, I said quietly, it's the key to finding him. Henderson clipped his phone back. Then let's go get it. The convoy arrived at Secure Store just after 4 p.m. 6 FBI vehicles, 2 Greenville PD units tactical van. Facility manager Eddie Carver met us with master keys. Unit 247, he said, pointing down a corridor of orange doors. Kyle Porter, paying since March 1995, never late. Breach. Henderson ordered. Bolt cutters snapped the padlock. The door rolled up. Inside was a time capsule. 10 by 10 space packed with boxes, filing cabinets, bins. Everything labeled in faded handwriting, James Harrison's 30 years old. Bennett stepped in first. Financial records, Brennan organization ledgers 70s through 90s. She opened a box. Drug trafficking manifests, names, dozens. Another agent called murder contracts, payment schedules, and targets. I stood at the threshold watching agents catalog my parents' killer's empire. A box labeled Morrison, 1984, sat on a shelf. Henderson opened it. Crime scene photographs never in official files. Thomas and Eleanor Morrison's home. The basement where I hid. Surveillance photos. Brennan had watched my family for weeks. They documented everything, I whispered. Christopher found the journal. Leather-bound, yellowed pages in a box marked personal. Younger handwriting, but recognizable. Dad, see this. I took it. October 10th, 1984. Father says I have to prove myself. The Morrison family has to go. Marcus will do the parents. I'll watch learn. This is my initiation. October 12th, 1984. It's done. The screaming was worse than I expected. The boy almost saw us. Marcus swears he was in the basement. Father says not to worry. Detective Cook will bury it. I'm one of them now. I couldn't breathe. Casual tone, cold pride, hours after murdering my parents. Photographs, an agent said. Young James Harrison, 19, before surgery. Perfect match to Kyle Porter. False IDs, another called. Passports, 5 names. Bennett examined a map, Asheville area, recent fresh paper. 3 locations circled red. Dates, April 20th, April 23rd, April 24th. Current, she said. What are they? Henderson asked. Blue Ridge Parkway overlook where Virginia died. Harrington residence. And this Riverside Mill. Abandoned textile factory, French Broad River. Christopher leaned over. What's the notation? Natalie's choice. Places to meet, I said. Or die, Henry added. Bennett radioed. All units potential location. Riverside Mill, French Broad River, Asheville. Tactical deployment now. Henderson grabbed the map. Date says April 24th, tomorrow. No? Bennett checked her watch. April 24th started 3 hours ago. If Kyle's following this, he's there, I finished. Bennett's face was grim. He's been planning this for months. 3 locations, 3 dates. Virginia's death, April 20th. Done. Your house, April 23rd. We blocked. Riverside Mill. April 24th today. Natalie's the final piece. Why give her a choice? Christopher asked. Control, Henderson said. He wants her willing. The map proves he planned this weeks ago before killing Virginia. Infiltrating your family, marrying Natalie 6 years, always building to this. I stared at the red circle. Natalie was there, with the man who'd murdered my parents, who'd murdered Virginia. How far? I demanded. 90 minutes, Henderson said. Then go, now. Bennett coordinated. All units Riverside Mill, hostage protocols, suspect armed, extremely dangerous. They ran for vehicles. Kyle's past didn't matter. Only Natalie's future. The tactical convoy screamed into Asheville at 8 a.m. Riverside Mill loomed beside the French Broad River, 3 stories of broken windows, condemned since 2012, graffiti-scarred brick. Thermal imaging, Henderson ordered. An agent studied the screen. 2 heat signatures, top floor, stationary. I stood beside the van, bulletproof vest, heavy. Christopher and Henry tried to pull me back. That's my daughter in there. Mr. Harrington, you're civilian, Henderson began. She's my daughter. My voice was iron. I'm going. Henderson studied me, then nodded. Behind me, touch nothing. I say run, you run. Breach team approached, 8 agents, weapons drawn. I followed Henderson through the shattered entrance. Ground floor empty, rusted machinery debris, 2nd floor clear, holes in floorboards, decay everywhere. Stairwell to 3rd floor, narrow, treacherous. An agent raised his fist. Stop. Thin wire stretched across the 3rd step. Tripwire, he whispered. Bomb tech examined it. Flash bang, non-lethal but disorienting. They disarmed it slowly, 5 agonizing minutes. Clear. 3rd floor, vast open space, old textile machinery, morning light through broken windows. Center of the room. Natalie tied to metal chair tape over mouth wrists, bound behind her ankles, zip-tied. Alive. My heart lurched. Her eyes went wide, seeing me, not relief. Terror. Sweep, Henderson ordered. Agents fanned out. Clear! 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 No Kyle. Bomb check. Tech swept chair floor beams. No explosives. They approached carefully. Bennett reached Natalie first, gently peeling tape from her mouth. Natalie gasped, tears streaming. It's a trap. He wanted you to come. He said if Dad didn't come today, he'd kill Olivia and Caleb. He knows where they are. My blood froze. He's been watching all of us. Knows Christopher's house, Angela's routine, kids' school. Natalie sobbed. He left me here as bait. Said you'd find the storage unit, find the map, come here. Counted on it. Bennett cut zip ties. Where is he? Not here? Natalie looked at me, eyes hollow with fear. He's at your house, Dad. Been watching the whole time, waiting for you to leave for agents to follow you here. My world tilted. My house. Kyle at my house, where Christopher's family stayed. Where Olivia and Caleb move, Henderson ran for stairs. All units to Harrington residence, officer down, possible hostage. We ran, down 3 flights through building into sunlight. Natalie stumbled beside me, freed but barely standing after days captive. Henry caught her, half-carried her to vehicle. Convoy roared to life. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Come home. Graham Morrison. Time to finish what my father started. You have 20 minutes before I hurt the children. Come alone or they die. Henderson saw my face. What? I showed him the text. Bennett was already coordinating. ETA to Harrington residence, 15 minutes, code 3. He's had them for how long? Henry asked, voice shaking. No one answered. 15 minutes to my house. Kyle Porter, James Harrison, waiting there with my grandchildren, waiting to finish a 40-year-old murder. The convoy split at Riverside Mill. Half stayed with Natalie. The rest raced toward my house, sirens screaming. I sat in the lead vehicle beside Henderson. Bennett drove like a missile weaving through morning traffic. All units to Harrington residence. Henderson barked into the radio. Possible hostage situation. Static crackled. Perimeter team, no visual on suspect. Protection detail, respond. Silence. Protection detail, respond immediately. Nothing. Bennett blasted through a red light. Cars scattered. My phone buzzed. Kyle, 20 minutes. We'd already burned 5 just getting to the vehicles. 15 minutes left. The drive normally took 12, with Bennett driving maybe 10. Faster, I said. I am, she snapped, taking a corner hard. Perimeter, the radio said. Front door open. No movement. Hold. Wait for tactical, Henderson ordered. We screamed down Tunnel Road 70 in a 35. My phone buzzed again. 12 minutes. Tick-tock, Graham Morrison. He's watching, I said. He planned this, Henderson replied grimly. Lured us to the mill, knew we'd rush back. He's had the house since we left. Since last night. Kyle had my family for hours. We tore into the neighborhood. Neighbors stood frozen on lawns. The cul-de-sac was blocked with vehicles. My house looked wrong, front door hanging open. Christopher's car in the driveway, driver's door ajar. No movement. Bennett braked hard. I was out before the engine stopped. Wait, Henderson grabbed my arm. Let tactical. I pulled free and ran inside. Chaos. Furniture overturned. Angela's purse spilled, wallet, keys, shattered phone. Backpacks by the door. Olivia's pink Caleb's with superhero patches. Christopher's phone on the floor screen cracked. No blood, no bodies. Clear agents shouted through the house. Clear upstairs, clear. Empty. In the garage, Henderson found the protection detail, both officers unconscious, zip-tied, drugged, alive. He didn't kill them, Bennett said. Not a cop killer, just a family killer, Henry said quietly. Christopher stood beside him, staring at his broken phone. I moved through the house in a daze. Kyle had been here, taken my family. On the kitchen table lay a folded sheet of paper, my name on the front. I opened it. Graham Harrington, or should I say Graham Morrison. We need to talk. Come to where it all began. Alone. You have 1 hour, or your grandchildren join your parents. Where it all began, I murmured. Henderson read over my shoulder. Richmond, the Morrison family home. That was demolished in 1987, Bennett said. Not the house, Christopher said softly. Where his father's operation began. The Brennan estate. I checked the time. 8:40 a.m. 1 hour, 90 miles to Richmond. Kyle had Olivia, Caleb, Christopher, Henry, and Angela. I had no choice. We're not letting you walk into this alone, Henderson said. He said alone, I protested. And if you don't, he kills them, Bennett said. But he didn't say we can't follow at distance. Didn't say we can't set sniper teams or a full tactical perimeter. Christopher gripped my shoulders. Dad, you're not doing this by yourself. Your kids need you alive, Henry added. Mom died protecting you. Don't waste that. I looked at the note, at the threat against my grandchildren. 40 years ago, I hid in a basement while my parents burned. Not this time. Then let's go, I said, but I face him first. Henderson nodded. Agreed. 55 minutes to move. We ran for the vehicles. The race wasn't over. It was just beginning. Where it all began. The phrase burned as agents dug through old files and databases. The Morrison house was gone. So was the treehouse. None of it fit. He's not being symbolic, Bennett said. He means the literal epicenter of the Brennan operation. Christopher scanned Virginia's files. Here, William Brennan's primary residence. Marked Original Headquarters, 1975-1997. Bennett pulled records. 1847, Brennan Estate Road. Seized in 97, auctioned in 2001, abandoned by 2005. Current status, Henderson asked. Condemned. But she froze. Monthly payments since 2006. Estate maintenance services. Trace it, Christopher said. Bennett went pale. Shell company. Owner K. Porter Insurance Solutions. Silence. He's maintained it for 18 years, Henderson said. This was always the endgame. The satellite image filled the screen, a decaying mansion, overgrown grounds, dense woods. Isolated, defensible. Distance from Asheville, I asked. 374 miles, Bennett said. 5.5 hours normal, but he gave 1 hour, Henry said. He lied, Christopher realized, to force panic, to make mistakes. Natalie, wrapped in a thermal blanket, spoke hoarsely. He once told me every good plan ends where it began. Full circle. I understood then. Kyle intended to kill me at the Brennan estate, where his father had ordered my family's murder 40 years ago. We leave now, Bennett said, already coordinating. Full convoy, highway clearance, under 4 hours. I stood my sons beside me. He wants me late, I said. So he has justification. He doesn't know we found him. Henderson checked his weapon. Then we have one advantage. Surprise. Outside the convoy, assembled engines running, lights flashing. Somewhere in that ruined mansion, Kyle was waiting. And we were coming. My phone rang an unknown number. Agent Bennett raised her hand sharply. Answer it. We're tracing. I put it on speaker. The room went silent. Hello, Graham, Kyle said smoothly. Or do you prefer Morrison? My jaw tightened. Where are my grandchildren? Safe, for now. I heard movement on the line. Olivia's brave didn't cry much. Caleb's more sensitive. Keeps asking for his mother. I swear to God, you'll what Kyle cut in. You don't get to threaten me. I hold every card. Christopher and Henry are alive too, by the way. Check your basement. Henderson was already on the radio. Seconds later, he nodded grimly. Both my sons had been found zip-tied in the wine cellar, drugged but unharmed. Kyle continued calmly. Here's how this works. You come to me, alone, no federal escort, no wires, no tracking. Then I tell you the truth about your parents' deaths, and you make a choice. What choice? Your life for theirs, he said without hesitation. You die quietly, tragic suicide, overwhelmed by grief, and I release the children. Your sons raise them. Everyone lives. A pause. Or you refuse and I kill Olivia and Caleb right now. Then I disappear with Virginia's money. My vision blurred with rage. Why? Because your family destroyed mine, Kyle said coldly. Your father stole from mine first. Thomas Morrison tried to blackmail William Brennan over a land deal. My father defended what was his. True or manipulation, I couldn't tell. Thomas Morrison wasn't a hero, Kyle continued. He was greedy. But you testified. You sent Marcus Webb to prison. You destroyed my family. I was 19 when federal agents tore our home apart. I watched my father die in court because of you. I've waited 40 years for this. I forced my voice steady. If I come, you swear the children go free. You have my word. I don't kill children. A beat. But I will if you force me. Bennett slid a note across the table. Stall him. I ignored it. What guarantee do I have? None, Kyle replied lightly. That's faith. But if I wanted them dead, they'd already be gone. I want you, Graham Morrison, the boy who hid in the basement. I want you to understand what you took from me. How do I know you really have them? There was shuffling then, a terrified voice. Grandpa! Olivia, I whispered, my chest breaking. Kyle returned. Satisfied 2 hours. Brennan estate. Come alone or they die. The call ended. Bennett turned to her team. Trace. Burner phone. 1 tower hit Henrico County, within 3 miles of Brennan estate. He's there, Henderson said, with the hostages. I stared at the phone, Kyle's words echoing. Your father stole from mine first. Absolutely not, Henderson said firmly. That's suicide. He'll kill you and the children. We can deploy HRT, Bennett added. Give us time surveillance negotiation. No. My voice was quiet but immovable. He's watching. If he sees federal movement, those children die. Christopher and Henry were brought upstairs, still unsteady from sedatives. Christopher stepped forward. Then we go with you. No, I met his eyes. Your father's. If I don't come back, Olivia and Caleb need you. This isn't negotiable, I said gently. 20 minutes of heated argument followed. Finally, a compromise. I would go to Brennan estate alone within the 2-hour window. Federal teams would establish a perimeter 2 miles out, using long-range surveillance and thermal imaging. We can't get closer without alerting him. Bennett explained, pointing to a wooded ridge on the map. "But we'll see everything from here." The tech team moved fast. Eyeglasses with a micro camera, a dental implant audio transmitter installed in a rushed field procedure that left my jaw aching. "If you say the word Morrison, we breach," Henderson said. "If your heart rate flatlines, we breach. If we lose signal for 60 seconds, we breach." Bennett pulled up Kyle's profile. "He's a narcissist. He wants an audience. He'll talk. Let him. Find out where the children are. And if he shoots me on sight," I asked. "He won't," Dr. Clark said calmly. "He's waited 40 years. He needs you to understand him. That's his weakness." Christopher grabbed my arm. "Dad, there has to be another way." "There isn't." I held his gaze. "This started with my family. It ends with me." Henry's voice cracked. "We just found you. We can't lose you now." I pulled them into an embrace. "I'm coming back. But if I don't tell Natalie I love her, tell Olivia and Caleb their grandfather died protecting them, like their grandmother did." Natalie sobbed quietly from the couch. Bennett checked the time. 15 minutes. I looked one last time at the satellite image of Brennan Estate, the decaying mansion isolated and waiting. Somewhere inside, a man who had planned revenge for 40 years was ready. I touched the eyeglass frame, feeling the hidden camera. "Let's finish this." The GPS died 2 miles out expected. I relied on memory and Virginia State Police directions from an hour ago. They'd dropped back at the county line as promised. At 1:35 p.m., after 4 hours of driving, I turned onto a narrow access road choked with overgrown brush. The rental car FBI provided untraceable bumped over cracked asphalt. Then I saw it. Brennan Estate rose from the wilderness like a monument to decay. 3-story colonial architecture, once grand, now rotting. Massive white columns flanked a sagging portico. Windows gaped like empty eye sockets, some broken, others intact, but filthy. The circular driveway centered on a shattered fountain, weeds erupting through marble. My hidden camera transmitted everything to the command vehicle 2 miles away. Christopher, Henry, and Natalie watched the screens with Henderson and Bennett holding their breath. I parked, killed the engine. Silence pressed down. No birds, no wind, just the oppressive stillness of abandonment. I stepped out. Gravel crunched under my shoes. The front door opened before I reached it. Kyle Porter stood framed in the doorway wearing khakis and a polo shirt, like he was hosting a casual weekend gathering. A holstered pistol sat visibly on his hip. He smiled, calm, almost warm. "Graham Morrison, after all these years." My voice was steady. "Where are Olivia and Caleb? Alive, for now?" Kyle stepped aside, gesturing inward. "Please come in. We have so much to discuss." I crossed the threshold into a nightmare. The entrance hall stretched impossibly long. Sheet-covered furniture hulked in shadows. Peeling wallpaper hung in strips, exposing water-damaged plaster beneath. The smell hit me, mildew rot, decades of neglect. Yet somehow, the floors were swept clean, as if Kyle had prepared for this moment. "This way." Kyle led me down a hallway lined with portraits Brennan family ancestors, staring down with oil-painted judgment. My dental transmitter picked up every word for the listening FBI team. We entered a library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with leather volumes. A massive oak desk dominated the space. 2 wingback chairs faced each other, positioned like a stage set. Kyle gestured to one chair. "Sit. Can I offer you something I have your favorite Virginia told me? Bourbon, no ice." I remained standing. "I didn't come here for drinks." "Where are the children?" "Safe. Upstairs. Sleeping." I gave them something mild to keep them calm. "They're not suffering, Graham. I'm not a monster." Kyle moved to a sideboard, poured 2 glasses of bourbon anyway. "But we won't discuss them until we discuss us. Sit, please." I sat, calculating. The library had 2 exits, the door we'd entered, and French doors leading to an overgrown garden. Windows offered no escape bars installed on the outside. Kyle had chosen this room carefully. Kyle settled into the opposite chair, placing his pistol on the small table between us. Not pointing it, just there. A reminder. Comfortable. Kyle took a sip of bourbon, studying me like a specimen. This was my father's favorite room. He did business here, made decisions, gave orders. His expression shifted, something darker flickering beneath the civility. "The order to kill your parents was given in this very chair." My hands clenched. Kyle leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. "Let's talk about October 12th, 1984. Kyle swirled, his bourbon eyes locked on me. "My father wasn't a good man. Drug trafficking, extortion, murder, he did it all. But he had principles. He never touched families, never harmed innocents unless forced. He paused. Your father broke those principles. My jaw tightened. My father was a real estate developer. Your father was a thief. Kyle leaned forward. In 1983, my father paid Thomas Morrison $2 million as deposit for 40 acres in Henrico County legitimate development. Your father took the money, then sold that same land to another developer, pocketed both payments. That's a lie. Check the property records. Your family got very wealthy in 1983-84. Where do you think that money came from? Kyle let the doubt settle. When my father confronted him, Thomas Morrison laughed in his face, said, "What are you going to do? Call the police?" Kyle continued, voice softening. My father gave yours a chance to return the money. He refused, so my father eliminated the problem. Marcus Webb handled it. I watched. I was 19. My initiation. His expression flickered. Your mother's screaming still haunts me. I didn't want her to die, but she saw us. She fought Marcus. My vision blurred with rage. You murdered them. Marcus murdered them. I witnessed it. Proved my loyalty. Kyle's voice hardened. But you hid in that basement, then testified. You identified Marcus, sent him to prison where he died. You destroyed my father's organization. He had a heart attack in court, dropped dead right in front of me. I was 24 watching my father die because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. He was a criminal. He was my father. Kyle slammed his glass down. You took him from me, just like I took yours from you. That's justice. Eye for an eye. Justice! My laugh was bitter. You murdered innocent people. Were they innocent? Kyle's composure returned. Your mother helped your father launder the stolen money. She knew where it came from. New cars, private schools, that vacation home in Virginia Beach. That's not... Virginia didn't think they were innocent. Kyle dropped the bombshell. She investigated your parents' finances before marrying you. Found tax evasion, fraudulent deals, offshore money laundering. He smiled. Want to know what Virginia discovered? My world tilted. Kyle walked to the French doors. Virginia spent 2 years digging into your past before approaching you. She knew who you were. She knew what your parents had done. And she married you anyway, not out of love, Graham, out of guilt. You're lying. She was the FBI analyst on your Whitsett case. She saw everything, including evidence her superiors buried, because it made the Morrison family look bad. Can't have your star witness's parents be criminals too. My hands trembled. Even if anything you're saying is true, and I don't believe it, that doesn't justify burning them alive. My mother was innocent. Kyle's smile turned cruel. Was she really? Virginia didn't think so. He paused. Do you want to know what Virginia discovered about your mother, Graham? The real reason she died? Kyle stood, walked to the bookshelf, and pulled out a file folder. Virginia's handwriting was unmistakable. Morrison family. The real story. He tossed it onto the table, read it. My hands shook as I opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, property records, offshore account numbers, and Virginia's meticulous investigative notes spanning 2 decades. Virginia spent 25 years building leverage on my father's associates, Kyle said quietly. But she also investigated your parents. Want to know what she found? I couldn't speak. Your mother, Eleanor Morrison, knew about the land deal, he continued. She managed the company finances. She knew Thomas stole Brennan's money, and she helped hide it. Cayman Islands, Switzerland. Virginia found the accounts in 2019, still active. $1.8 million. No, I whispered. She wasn't innocent, Graham. She was complicit. Kyle's voice was calm, almost gentle. That's why she fought Marcus so hard the night she died. She wasn't protecting her life. She was protecting the account numbers hidden in her desk. I flipped through the pages. Photocopies of Eleanor's signature. Offshore transfers dated 1983 and 1984. Virginia's handwritten notes confirmed. Eleanor knew. Thomas didn't act alone. Why didn't Virginia tell me? My voice broke. Because she loved you, Kyle said, sitting back down. She wanted you to remember your parents as martyrs, heroes, but they were criminals. Graham like my father, like me, like what Virginia became. The room seemed to tilt. Everything I believed, my parents' innocence, my testimony, even Virginia's moral clarity collapsed. The difference, Kyle continued, is that I'm honest about who I am. I never pretended to be clean. I looked up. What do you want from me? I want you to understand. His gaze hardened. My father killed your parents because they betrayed him. You destroyed my father with your testimony. Virginia built an empire by blackmailing everyone connected to both our families. And now, here we are, two men ruined by the same greed. The children, I said quietly, they're innocent. Are they? Kyle tilted his head. They'll grow up and learn the truth, that their great-grandparents were thieves, that their grandmother was a criminal. Innocence is just ignorance, Graham. They're children. So were we, he replied. You when your parents died, me when I watched mine murder. I whispered everything I believed was a lie. Not everything, Kyle said. Virginia's love for you was real. She gave up her career, built that entire operation, and protected you for 40 years. His eyes darkened. That's what makes what she did to me unforgivable. I looked up sharply. What did she do to you? She turned my wife against me. Kyle walked to the window. After the Morrison murders, I ran. Changed my name in 1985. Went to UNC, MBA, insurance actuary. I wanted normal. I wanted out. He paused. My father died in prison in 1998. Stroke. I thought I was free. 14 years clean. Then he turned back. In 2016, I got an anonymous email. Blackmail, pay $100,000 or be exposed. I felt sick. I paid. Then another demand. Then another. $600,000 in 2 years. Loans, debt, panic. His jaw tightened. I hired a PI, traced it to Virginia Pierce Harrington, the FBI analyst. Your wife. She was protecting me, I said weakly. She was torturing me, Kyle snapped. I hadn't hurt anyone. I wasn't James Harrison anymore. And she punished me for sins committed at 19. Your father murdered my parents. Marcus murdered them, Kyle shot back. I witnessed it under orders. I was a teenager. Refusal meant death. Silence stretched. So I decided to destroy her peace like she destroyed mine, he said quietly. I researched her family, found Natalie, met her in 2017, married her in 2018. My blood ran cold. You used her. I infiltrated, he said. 6 years inside your family, holidays, birthdays. I watched you live in peace while Virginia destroyed my life. Kyle paced. Through Natalie's laptop, I accessed Virginia's files. 47 blackmail victims. I built leverage. If she exposed me, I'd expose her. Then why kill her? He stopped. Because she found out. January 2024. I begged her to stop. She said, justice has no statute of limitations. He looked at me. I couldn't go to police. I couldn't threaten her. So I eliminated the problem. You murdered her. I gave her justice, he said coldly. She took my peace. I took her life. I whispered, you cut her brake lines. I gave her a choice she never gave me, Kyle replied. Stop the FBI meeting or die. She chose to die. He leaned forward. So tell me, Graham, who's the monster? The boy forced to witness murder, or the woman who tortured him for decades? I forced myself to focus. The mission was simple, save Olivia and Caleb. Where are my grandchildren? Kyle's expression softened slightly. Upstairs, locked in a bedroom, unharmed. I'm not a monster, Graham. I don't hurt children. You're holding them hostage. I'm making a point. Kyle walked to the desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small medical case. Inside a syringe filled with clear liquid. You can end this. Your life for theirs. Right now. I stared at the syringe. Insulin, massive dose. You'll fall asleep. Heart stops in 3 minutes. Painless. Medical examiner will rule it. Suicide grief over Virginia's death perfectly plausible. The children go free. Your sons inherit Virginia's remaining money. Everyone moves on. And you? Kyle smiled. I disappear. New identity, new life. Again, I'm good at it. My mind raced. Let me see them first, I said. Let me say goodbye. Kyle studied me, calculating. Finally, he nodded. Fair request. Come. He led me out of the library down a hallway lined with water-stained portraits. My hidden camera transmitted every detail. Second floor. Kyle unlocked a door on the right. Inside, Olivia and Caleb huddled together on an old 4-poster bed. Both wore the same clothes from school. Yesterday wrinkled, frightened but alive. No visible injuries. Grandpa! Olivia's voice cracked. I rushed forward, pulling them into my arms. Caleb sobbed against my chest. Olivia held on tight, trembling. You're okay, I whispered. I promise you're going to be okay. Kyle watched from the doorway, gun still holstered but hand resting on it. You have 2 minutes. I cupped Olivia's face, speaking low. Listen carefully. When I say the word Morrison, not before exactly, when I say it, you run. Both of you. Down the stairs, out the front door. Don't stop. Understand? Olivia's eyes widened. She nodded almost imperceptibly. Caleb whispered, I'm scared. I know, buddy, but you're brave, just like your dad. I kissed his forehead. When I say the word, you run with Olivia. She'll take care of you. I pulled both children close one last time. Your grandmother loved you so much. She did everything to protect this family. I'm going to finish what she started. Time's up. Kyle's voice was firm. I stood slowly, placing myself between Kyle and the children. I need to know they'll be safe. How do I know you'll keep your word? Kyle's expression was unreadable. You don't. That's called Faith Graham. The same faith you had when you testified against Marcus Webb 40 years ago. You believed justice would prevail. He paused. Did it? I met his eyes. Justice isn't what either of us thought it was. No, Kyle agreed quietly. It isn't. He gestured toward the door. Downstairs. We finish this. I turned back to Olivia and Caleb one last time. Olivia mouthed Morrison. I nodded. Kyle locked the door behind us as we descended to the library. Touching? Now your choice. Back in the library, I made one final attempt to delay. Before I decide, tell me exactly how you killed Virginia. I deserve to know. Kyle's eyes gleamed. He'd been waiting for this. She called me March 19th, said she had proof of my identity, demanded a meeting. I agreed. Blue Ridge Parkway, overlook March 20th, 6 p.m. My fists clenched. I arrived early, 4 p.m., crawled under her car. Professional job, nearly invisible. Cut the brake lines 3/4 through. They'd hold for normal driving, but fail under pressure. Kyle's tone was clinical. At the meeting, I told her everything. Who I was, why I married Natalie, how much I hated her. She recorded you, I said quietly. Smart woman. Kyle nodded appreciatively. But she didn't know I'd already sabotaged her car. She drove away thinking she'd won, thinking she'd expose me to the FBI the next day. My jaw tightened. She crashed 2 miles out. Sharp turn, steep grade brakes failed completely. Car went over the embankment, rolled 3 times. She died instantly. Kyle's voice held no remorse. Clean, professional. The recording device in her purse survived because it ejected during impact. That's the tape you found? You knew about the tape. I assumed she had insurance, didn't care. By the time police found the recording, I'd be gone. Kyle's expression darkened. Except, Natalie found it first. She heard it. She knew. And she ran. With the money. With my money! Kyle's voice turned sharp. Virginia stole $7.3 million from my father's associates over 25 years. That fortune was built on my suffering, the $600,000 she extorted from me, the leverage she held. Natalie took $4.7 million. She owes me. She owes you nothing. You killed her mother. Her mother destroyed my life first. Kyle leaned forward. Virginia hunted me for 40 years, blackmailed me, tortured me. She chose to die rather than leave me alone. So I gave her what she wanted, a dramatic ending. My voice was ice. You're insane. I'm consistent. Kyle stood, retrieving the insulin syringe from the desk. Your father stole from mine. My father killed yours. You destroyed my father. Virginia destroyed me. I destroyed Virginia. And now, he held up the syringe. You'll sacrifice yourself to save your grandchildren. The cycle completes. I stared at the syringe. This ends here. No more killing. Agreed. Kyle's smile was cold. After you die. And if I refuse, Kyle walked to the library door, opened it, called upstairs. Olivia, Caleb. Your grandfather says he doesn't love you enough to save you. A child's scream pierced the silence. I lunged forward. Stop! Kyle closed the door calmly. Your choice, Graham. You or them. My mind raced. The code word. Morrison. But if I said it now, Kyle might reach the children before FBI breached. I needed Kyle here, away from that locked door. I'll do it, I said quietly. I'll take the injection. Kyle's expression shifted, surprise, then satisfaction. Finally, a Morrison with honor. He approached with the syringe. I held out my arm. One condition. You release them the moment I'm unconscious. You don't touch them. You have my word. Kyle positioned the needle. My pulse hammered. Kyle pressed the needle to my skin. I looked him in the eye. My name is Graham Morrison. I slowly stood, pushing the syringe away. I'm not taking that injection, Kyle. His expression darkened instantly. Then the children die. No. My voice surprised me, steady, controlled. They won't. Because you're not a child killer. You said it yourself. Your father never targeted families. You were 19 when my parents died, barely more than a child. You've carried that guilt for 40 years. That's why you changed your name. Why you tried to build a normal life. You're not your father. Don't psychoanalyze me, Kyle snapped. Virginia was wrong to blackmail you, I said, stepping closer. She should have turned you in 25 years ago and let the system decide. But killing her didn't give you peace. It only gave you more guilt, more nightmares. Killing me won't save you. It will turn you into exactly what William Brennan was. Kyle's hand drifted toward the pistol on the table. You don't know me. I know you kept those children alive. You drugged federal agents instead of killing them. You've spent your life trying to be better than your father. I held his gaze. But threatening children murdering their grandmother, that's exactly what he would have done. His hand trembled on the gun. For a brief moment, hesitation crossed his face, the 19-year-old boy who watched murder and carried it for decades. Let them go, I said quietly. Turn yourself in. Let everything come out. Virginia's blackmail, my parents' crimes, your father's crimes, all of it. That's justice, not revenge. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd reached him. Then his expression hardened. His fingers closed around the pistol. He raised it and aimed directly at my chest. You're a fool, he said. Just like Virginia. The room seemed to shrink. I heard my own breathing. Upstairs, Olivia and Caleb were waiting for a signal I hadn't given. Virginia died protecting people. I said, amazed my voice didn't shake. I'm not afraid to do the same. Kyle's finger moved to the trigger. Then you'll die for nothing. No. I straightened. She died giving me the truth. And I'm going to use it. Whatever you do to me, the evidence survives. The tape survives. Your confession is already in federal hands. Killing me changes nothing. It gives me satisfaction, he replied coldly. Does it? I took a step toward the gun. Or does it finally make you the man you've spent 40 years trying not to become? Behind my glasses, the hidden camera recorded everything. The dental transmitter captured every word. 2 miles away, Henderson waited for my signal. I looked Kyle Porter, James Harris, and Brennan directly in the eyes. My name, I said, clearly is Graham Morrison. The code word. Kyle's eyes widened. His finger tightened. And yours, I finished, is James Harrison, the boy who watched his father destroy lives and the man choosing to do the same. The gunshot shattered the silence. At the same instant, glass exploded from a second-floor window, FBI tactical breach. Kyle flinched, distracted for 1 critical second. I lunged, grabbing the heavy brass desk lamp. Kyle spun back and fired. The shot missed, slamming into a bookshelf. I swung with everything I had. The lamp struck his wrist. The gun flew across the room. You were supposed to come alone. He snarled. I did, I gasped. They just followed. Kyle rushed me. He was younger, stronger. I was 65 and desperate. We crashed into furniture, struggling. My glasses, the hidden camera, flew off. Video was lost, but audio continued. Breathless impact, pain. Kyle slammed me against the wall, hands closing around my throat. If I die, everyone dies. I rigged explosives in the basement bluff, or truth I didn't know. My vision blurred. Then I remembered Virginia years ago, insisting I learn basic self-defense. You never know when you'll need to protect yourself. I drove my knee hard into his groin. Kyle released me, stumbling backward. FBI agents were on the stairs now. Federal agents, drop your weapon. The gun lay across the room. Kyle made his choice. If I can't have justice, he shouted, no one can. He lunged for the pistol toward the stairs, leading to my grandchildren. I barely had breath to shout, Morrison, the breach code. I was closest. In that instant, I chose. I grabbed the heavy bronze bookend and threw it with everything I had. It struck Kyle's head. He collapsed unconscious. The gun skidded away. The FBI flooded the room, weapons drawn. Kyle was restrained alive. Henderson appeared. Are you okay? I slid down the wall, throat bruised, blood on my lip. Get my grandchildren out, I said. Now. Chaos outside the Brennan estate. FBI agents everywhere, ambulances, Virginia State Police. Kyle Harrison. Brennan, unconscious but alive, head wound bandaged, was loaded into an ambulance under armed guard. Bomb squads swept the house. No explosives found. Kyle had been lying. Upstairs, Agent Bennett personally brought Olivia and Caleb out wrapped in blankets. Caleb was frozen with fear. Bennett carried him whispering reassurances. I met them outside, dropped to my knees, pulled both children into my arms. "I was so scared, Grandpa," Olivia sobbed. "I know. It's over now. You're safe." Christopher and Henry arrived. They'd followed with the FBI convoy and ran to us. Family reunion tears relief trauma. Paramedics insisted on checking everyone. My throat was severely bruised, minor cuts. Olivia and Caleb had no physical injuries, but were clearly traumatized. Federal agents conducted brief interviews. Kyle had kept them locked in the room, but fed them, gave them water, didn't harm them physically. Natalie arrived by federal helicopter, rushing to embrace me and her brothers, another tearful reunion. Christopher hugged his wife Angela, who'd come with the federal escort. Henry stood slightly apart, processing alone. Henderson approached me as paramedics finished examining my throat. "We need to close this out. There's more to Virginia's story." I nodded, exhausted. "I know." Bennett joined us. "Kyle's cooperating, already asking for a lawyer, already offering testimony against remaining Brennan associates. He knows his only shot at avoiding death penalty is full cooperation." "The children?" I asked hoarsely. "We'll have child psychologists meet with them tonight. Gentle interviews, trauma-informed. They'll need therapy, but they're resilient." Bennett's expression softened. "You saved them, Mr. Morrison. Graham, you saved your family." The name felt strange. Morrison, after 40 years as Harrington. Christopher appeared at my side. "Dad, the doctors want you at the hospital. Your throat—" "I'm fine." "You're not fine." Henry's voice was firm. "You were nearly strangled. You're going to the hospital. We'll all go." I looked at my sons, both of them exhausted, traumatized, but standing strong. Behind them, Olivia held Caleb's hand, both wrapped in blankets beside Natalie. My family. Alive. Safe. "Okay," I said quietly. "Hospital. Then we finish this." Henderson handed me my recovered eyeglasses. The hidden camera lens cracked, but footage saved. "Everything's recorded. Kyle's confession, the assault, everything. It's over, Graham. You did it." I looked back at the decaying Brennan estate, where 40 years of secrets had finally ended. "No," I whispered. "Virginia did it. I just finished what she started." 3 days later, we gathered at FBI Charlotte. Graham, Christopher, Henry, Natalie. Agent Bennett presented final evidence from Virginia's safe deposit box, a USB drive labeled "For My Family." After KP is caught, Bennett plugged it in. Virginia appeared on screen, dated January 15, 2024, 2 months before she died. She looked tired, but peaceful. "My loves, if you're watching this, I'm gone, and Kyle has been caught. Good." She explained her 25-year mission completely. The blackmail operation wasn't just to protect me. It was to dismantle William Brennan's entire criminal network. 47 associates, 12 corrupt officials, 8 judges, 6 law enforcement officers. Every dollar Virginia collected went into trust funds for 3 purposes. Education for the grandchildren, $3 million allocated. Restitution for Brennan Network, victims $2.8 million, and operational costs protecting me, $1.5 million. The missing money Kyle and Natalie had fought over, already distributed to 23 families harmed by the Brennan organization over 40 years. Virginia had established anonymous trust funds in 2023, began distributions in November. She had been nearly finished, just needed to identify James Harrison to complete the mission. "I know what I did was illegal," Virginia said on screen, "but every person I targeted had committed real crimes that destroyed lives. I didn't create criminals, I documented them. And I used their fear to protect the people they had harmed." She looked directly at the camera. "Graham, I'm sorry for keeping your past from you. I wanted you to have peace. Christopher, Henry, Natalie, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth, but everything I did for love." Tears streamed down Natalie's face. Christopher gripped the table. Henry stared at the screen, jaw tight. Virginia's voice softened. "The Brennan Network destroyed hundreds of lives. Thomas and Eleanor Morrison were just 2. I couldn't bring them back, but I could make sure their deaths meant something. I could make sure William Brennan's empire crumbled, and I could protect the one witness who survived the man I loved." She wiped her eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect understanding. I just need you to know every choice I made, Every risk I took, every lie, I told it was all for you, for family, for justice. Virginia looked straight at me through the screen. Graham, you're free now. Free to be whoever you want to be, Morrison or Harrington. Free to grieve your parents properly. Free to hate me for what I did or forgive me. But please teach our grandchildren that justice and compassion must exist together. That love without truth is manipulation, but truth without love is cruelty. I failed to balance that. Don't let them fail. Her voice broke. I love you. I've always loved you. I'll love you beyond death. Forgive me. Forgive yourself. Live fully. The screen went black. I sat in silence, tears on my face. Around me, my children cried. She was remarkable, Bennett said quietly. Flawed, yes, but remarkable. I nodded. She was everything. That afternoon, Bennett presented the final outcomes of the case. Kyle Harrison Brennan would be tried in Virginia for first-degree murder. 5 counts of kidnapping, assault, extortion, and racketeering. Federal prosecutors were seeking life without parole. The death penalty remained possible, but unlikely given the complexity of the case and Kyle's cooperation. Kyle was already testifying against the remaining Brennan network. His statements were expected to close 14 unsolved murders committed between 1975 and 1995. The Morrison murder case from 1984 was officially reopened. Evidence from Virginia's files and Kyle's storage unit would allow prosecutors to posthumously indict William Brennan, Detective Raymond Cook, and 3 corrupt prosecutors who had buried the truth decades earlier. My testimony from 1984 was formally vindicated. The Department of Justice would issue an official apology. Witness protection gave me a final choice: legally reclaim my birth identity as Graham Morrison or remain Graham Harrington. Natalie's withdrawal of $4.7 million was ruled legitimate. As Virginia's executor, she had fled for safety. The money was recovered and would be redistributed according to Virginia's will. No charges were filed. Federal prosecutors declined to pursue posthumous charges against Virginia. Her actions had been illegal, but they dismantled a powerful criminal network and prevented greater crimes. Officially, she would be remembered as a complex figure. There's one more thing, Henderson said. Virginia left something for you. He handed me a sealed envelope. For Graham. Open after everything ends. Take it home, Bennett said gently. I held the envelope, recognizing her handwriting immediately. One last message from my wife. What happens now? Christopher asked. Henderson leaned forward. Now we rebuild. Kyle's testimony will bring closure to dozens of families. Virginia's documentation will change how we handle organized crime infiltration. And he looked at me carefully. You get to decide who you want to be. Graham Morrison or Graham Harrington. Both, neither. Whatever feels right, he said. You spent 40 years as someone else. Now you choose. I need time, I said. Take it, Bennett replied. The threats are gone. You're free for the first time in 40 years. Free. The word felt unfamiliar. I had lived as Graham Harrington, built a life, raised children, loved a woman. But I had been Graham Morrison first, the boy who survived, who testified, who lost everything. I stood. Thank you for protecting my family, for finishing what Virginia started. She'd be proud of you, Henderson said, facing Kyle at the Brennan estate and saving those children that took courage. It took desperation, I replied, and love. Love and justice, Bennett said quietly. Her gravestone should say that. It will, I promised. That evening alone in the bedroom, Virginia and I had shared for 38 years. I opened her letter. 8 pages, her handwriting, dated February 2024. My darling Graham, if you're reading this, you know everything. She wrote that I now knew who I truly was, Graham Morrison. She confessed to 25 years of blackmail, manipulation, and crime, all done to protect me, avenge my parents, and destroy the network that murdered them. She admitted how it ended. Kyle killed her. She wasn't angry at him. She was angry at herself. She wrote that in her pursuit of justice, she had lost compassion, that she had become what she hated, someone who destroyed lives in the name of righteousness. She wrote about us, meeting in 1985, our wedding in 1986, Christopher and Henry's births, adopting Natalie. Every memory was real. Her love had never been a lie. The only lie was a mission keeping my past from me. She apologized for stealing my right to know myself. When she met me, I was healing. I had forgotten the worst of the trauma. I was happy. She couldn't bear to drag me back into pain, so she carried it alone. She built walls of secrets around me, keeping me safe inside a prison I never knew existed. Now she wrote I was free. Free to choose my name, free to grieve properly, free to hate her or forgive her. She asked only one thing that I teach our grandchildren, that justice and compassion must exist together. Love without truth is manipulation. Truth without love is cruelty. She had failed to balance the two. The letter ended simply. I love you. I've always loved you. I'll love you beyond death. Forgive me. Forgive yourself. Live fully. Your Virginia. I sat on the bed holding the letter to my chest. For 40 years, Virginia had carried the weight of my stolen identity. She had sacrificed her career, her integrity, and finally her life for love. Who was the monster? None of us. All of us. We were people shaped by trauma, chasing justice, making impossible choices in the name of love. I looked at her photograph on the nightstand. I forgive you, I whispered, and I'll finish what you started the right way. 6 weeks after Kyle's arrest, our family gathered at the dining table for the first time since March. Christopher, Angela, Olivia, Caleb, Henry, and Natalie were all there. The empty chair beside me felt heavy. Christopher had insisted. Mom would want us together. Our therapist said rituals mattered. Trauma had to be shared to heal. Angela cooked Virginia's lasagna. Olivia and Caleb sat close. Henry poured wine, his hands steady again. Natalie looked present, fully present for the first time in weeks. I want to say something, I began. We had been through hell. Kyle's crimes, Virginia's secrets, truths we never wanted to know. Virginia had made terrible choices. She lied, she blackmailed people. That was undeniable. She had also loved us fiercely, protected us, died for us. Both were true. Christopher admitted his anger. She could have gone to the FBI. Instead, she played vigilante and paid with her life. But would the system have protected us? Natalie asked quietly. Or buried it again like they did in 1984? We would never know. Henry asked the question he feared most. Did Mom marry Dad out of guilt? No, I said firmly. Guilt may have brought her to me. Love kept her with me. I miss Grandma, Olivia whispered. So do I said. We ate. We shared stories. Healing wasn't neat, but it had begun. Before leaving, Caleb asked Grandpa, "Who are you now?" "I'm both," I answered, "Morrison and Harrington. I need both to be whole." I raised my glass. To Virginia, for truth and lies, justice and mercy, love and sacrifice. To Virginia, they echoed. And surrounded by the family she died to protect, I felt her absence and her presence. We were broken. We were healing. We were home. 1 year to the day after Kyle shot at me in the Brennan Estate Library, I stood at Virginia's grave. The November morning was crisp and clear, the kind of day she'd loved. I placed fresh roses red, her favorite, on the granite headstone. Virginia Pierce Harrington, 1961 to 2024. Beloved wife, mother, grandmother. The fierce love that protects endures forever. We made it through the first year, I told her. It wasn't easy, but I think you'd be proud of us. In my pocket, I carried her final letter, the one from the treehouse lockbox. I'd read it so many times the paper was soft and creased. My dearest Graham, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you know the truth. I know you're angry. I know you feel betrayed. But please remember, every choice I made, every line I crossed, every secret I kept, it was all for you. Loving you and raising our family has been the greatest privilege of my life. Please forgive me. I forgive you, I whispered. I understand now. The past year had brought seismic changes. Kyle Porter, James Harrison. Brennan pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, kidnapping, and extortion. He received life without parole at Red Onion State Prison. At sentencing, he'd looked directly at me and said, "I'm sorry, not for Virginia, she earned that, but for Olivia and Caleb, for Natalie. I became my father after all." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The Morrison murder case from 1984 was officially reopened and resolved. The Richmond Commonwealth's attorney issued a formal apology for the corruption that had denied my parents justice for 40 years. A memorial plaque was installed on Monument Avenue commemorating Thomas and Eleanor Morrison as victims of organized crime and institutional failure. Christopher and Angela had survived their crisis. Marriage counseling and determination kept them together. Christopher now consulted for the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, dismantling money laundering operations. "Mom showed me what one person can do," he'd said. "I want to do it legally." Olivia and Caleb were healing, slowly but healing. Olivia, now 13, had joined her school's debate team and talked about becoming a lawyer. Caleb, 11, painted vivid canvases that released trauma his words couldn't express. Henry had moved to Seattle, taken a cybersecurity position, and was dating Emma, a kindergarten teacher, who made him laugh again. He called every Sunday. Natalie had stayed in Asheville, started nursing school, and volunteered at a women's shelter. She'd returned $3. $7 million to the federal government for victim compensation funds, keeping $1 million for education and a trust for Olivia and Caleb. Mom wanted us taken care of, she'd said, but not with money taken through fear. As for me, Graham Harrington Morrison, 66 years old, I'd found unexpected purpose. I spoke at victim advocacy conferences, telling Virginia's story and mine, not to excuse what she'd done, but to illuminate the impossible choices that trauma and injustice force upon people. I'd partnered with the Virginia Crime Victims Coalition to develop better WITSEC protections. I'd testified before the state legislature on criminal justice reform. I'd returned to Richmond, bought a house near where I was born, close to my parents' memorial. I'd come full circle. But unlike Kyle, I was building instead of destroying. The kids are coming for dinner tonight, I told Virginia's headstone. All of them. Angela's making your lasagna. We're going to tell stories about you, the good ones and the complicated ones. Olivia painted you standing in front of a sunset smiling. Behind me, I heard car doors. Christopher, Henry, Natalie. They'd come to stand with me to mark this day together. Ready, Dad? Christopher asked gently. I looked at Virginia's name one last time. Yeah, I'm ready. Mem, we walked back to the cars together, a family scarred but unbroken, choosing love over bitterness, hope over despair, light over the darkness Virginia had lived in to keep us safe. Above us, the November sky stretched vast and blue, full of promise. Virginia Pierce Harrington had sacrificed everything to protect the people she loved. Now, it was our turn to honor that sacrifice by living well, by loving fiercely, by fighting for justice the right way. And that, I thought, as we drove toward home, was the truest justice of all. Sitting here at 66, I need to share what I've learned from this true story. Don't be like me. Don't live in comfortable lies while someone you love destroys themselves protecting you. For 40 years, Virginia carried secrets that poisoned our marriage. I never asked hard questions, never pushed past her walls. God knows I failed her. The Bible says, the truth will set you free. And that's the hardest lesson of this true story. These grandpa stories I tell Olivia and Caleb now are honest, painful, but honest. Virginia's grandpa stories were beautiful lies built on sand. When truth came, it shattered us. Here's my lesson. Love without honesty isn't love, it's control. Protection without transparency isn't safety, it's prison. If someone's keeping secrets to protect, you demand answers. If you're keeping secrets, stop. God gave us truth for a reason. I thank God my grandchildren survived, but I'll never forgive myself for being blind. This true story isn't about a hero grandfather, it's about a man who woke up too late, a wife who chose vengeance over trust, and a family nearly destroyed by secrets disguised as love. Don't be like us. Choose truth. Choose transparency. Choose light over darkness. If this story touched you, please comment below, sharing your thoughts on these grandpa stories about justice and family. Subscribe to the channel for more honest content. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's build a community where truth matters more than comfort.